Chapter 121. I wonder what year this kind of wild ginseng is from. It must be hundreds of years old, right? Cheng Yan looked at the red fruit in front of him and couldn't help thinking about the age of this wild ginseng. But the tiger didn't pay much attention to Cheng Yan. Although Cheng Yan's body was not small, in its eyes, he was just a child of a few years old. It didn't even take Cheng Yan seriously. After taking a look at Cheng Yan, it continued to take a nap. It was completely different from other tigers, who would not stop until they drove away the invaders when other tigers broke into their territory. Cheng Yan took a look at the tiger and decided to grab the wild ginseng. With such a strong taste, Cheng Yan didn't even need to think about how much he had eaten. For a bite of food, he didn't mind fighting with a tiger. However, Cheng Yan estimated that the giant tiger in front of him must be more than 4 meters long, and with the tail, it might be more than 5 meters long. He couldn't compete with it with his current size. As for communication, Cheng Yan gave up the idea in less than a second. He was ready to grab this rare wild ginseng. How could this giant tiger give up the good thing it had guarded for so long? In the end, there was only a fight. Whoever won could get the right to own this wild ginseng. So Cheng Yan directly chose to use the ability to grow bigger. When Cheng Yan grew bigger and took a step forward, the giant tiger opened its eyes. When it saw that the white tiger in front of it suddenly doubled in size, even it was shocked. Cheng Yan, who was originally more than 3 meters long, now instantly became more than 6 meters long, not counting the tail. Now Cheng Yan's size has already crushed the giant tiger. The giant tiger was no longer calm. It stood up and roared a warning. Cheng Yan also roared, not wanting to be outdone. This giant tiger may have been roaming the mountains and forests all the time and had never met an opponent, so even though Cheng Yan was bigger than it didn't back off. After Cheng Yan roared back, it rushed over and slapped him. Cheng Yan also slapped him back, not wanting to be outdone. So the two huge tigers stood up, waving their huge tiger paws and slapping each other on the head. But it was obvious that Cheng Yan's tiger paw was bigger and more powerful. After just a few slaps, the giant tiger was already a little confused and couldn't wave its tiger paw. Looking at the already confused giant tiger, Cheng Yan didn't continue to attack. It was enough. He didn't want to kill the giant tiger. It was enough to beat him like this, and it wouldn't affect him digging this wild ginseng. However, Cheng Yan was not in a hurry to dig wild ginseng. After all, it grew here and would not run away. He was more curious about why this tiger was so big. You should know that the average wild Siberian tiger is very large when it reaches 3 meters, and this one is already one level higher. When facing him, ordinary Siberian tigers and brown bears don't even need to grow bigger. They will probably fall down with a slap. This giant tiger was able to withstand several slaps after he grew bigger. He could even feel that the tiger was so powerful that a slap on him made him feel a lot of pain. When the giant tiger came to his senses, he exposed his belly to show his surrender. Roar! Cheng Yan opened the language of all things and roared, so that his roar could make the giant tiger fully understand what he wanted to express. The giant tiger was obviously stunned after hearing the roar, and then roared in the same way. After opening the language of all things, Cheng Yan could fully understand what the other party meant. This giant tiger is now 20 years old. It can even be regarded as the tiger king of this generation in Chenbai Mountain, the real tiger king. A year ago, it passed by here and was attracted by the smell of the wild ginseng. At that time, the wild ginseng had just become a treasure and had just emitted a fresh fragrance, but perhaps because the wild ginseng itself was already very old, even if it had just emitted a fresh fragrance, it attracted all the animals around. But its size did not grow to this size this year. It was not small before, so it killed other animals that came and kept guarding here waiting for the wild ginseng to mature completely. After hearing this, Cheng Yan was a little confused. It was the first time he heard that the precious wild ginseng had to wait for it to mature completely after emitting a fresh fragrance. He basically ate it when he saw it before, and never waited. However, when he learned that if he wanted to mature, the speed of maturity would be different depending on the type and year of each wild treasure. The older the year, the more time it takes. Cheng Yan was relieved after hearing this. He would not stay there for a rare mountain delicacy. There was no need. He could walk around freely and clock in every day. What he got might not be weaker than those fully mature rare mountain delicacy. After listening to what the tiger said, Cheng Yan looked at the wild ginseng. The tiger estimated that it might take some time for this wild ginseng to fully mature. Although Cheng Yan was curious about the effects of fully mature rare mountain delicacy, he thought about it and decided not to wait. He dug it out now. It was better to eat only the rare mountain delicacy that was not fully mature than to leave it here and not eat it. Cheng Yan walked forward and started digging with his tiger paw. As a result, after a few claws, Cheng Yan was surprised to find that the body of this wild ginseng was a bit long. He saw this wild ginseng when he clawed the third time. Although it was the thickest wild ginseng Cheng Yan had ever seen, it was still acceptable. As a result, after these few claws, Cheng Yan found that he had not dug out the whole body of the wild ginseng. After discovering this, Cheng Yan became much more careful. He had never dug ginseng like this before. He would just dig it out roughly and eat it. But this one is a rare treasure, and it is so big, it is estimated to be of great age, so Cheng Yan must be more careful. As Cheng Yan successfully dug it out, the ginseng completely revealed its true face. A wild ginseng, not counting the roots, is 1 meter long. Such a length, Cheng Yan was completely stunned. 1,000-year wild ginseng? Real 1,000-year wild ginseng. Cheng Yan remembered that he had watched a video, which said that a 1,000-year wild ginseng that was once displayed in a pharmacy reached 1.6 meters. However, Cheng Yan did not know whether the wild ginseng in the pharmacy reached a length of 1.6 meters, including the roots, but at least the one in front of Cheng Yan was 1 meter long without the roots. Chapter 122. Cheng Yan tried to open his mouth wide and take a bite of such a big wild ginseng, but he only took a third of it. After the wild ginseng entered his mouth, Cheng Yan felt the fragrance rushing straight to his head, which made him shudder. After chewing a few times, Cheng Yan swallowed the one in his mouth. As soon as it went down his stomach, Cheng Yan felt that his whole body was a little hot. It's bad. Cheng Yan felt that if his body got hotter, his fur would turn red. This 1,000-year-old treasure wild ginseng is quite powerful, more powerful than the red and blue fruits he had eaten before. You know, he only took a bite, only 1/3 of the amount, and Cheng Yan now felt the powerful medicinal power of this wild ginseng. Cheng Yan is still a tiger, and he is a Siberian tiger that has eaten a lot of good things and has an extremely strong physique. If an ordinary person took this bite, Cheng Yan even felt that he might be killed by this powerful medicinal power. After a while, Cheng Yan felt thirsty and had to take out several large buckets of water from the system space to drink. After drinking 2 large buckets of water, Cheng Yan felt a little better. At this time, the effect of the medicine in his body seemed to have been digested a lot. At this time, Cheng Yan felt that he was full of energy and even had the urge to fight with others. It's bad. Isn't it in estrus? No. I'm still single, and I don't want to find another tiger. Cheng Yan felt that he was going to have a problem. He had never thought about this problem after he became a tiger. Tigers have estrus. It's just that after Cheng Yan became a tiger, he didn't feel what estrus was and had never experienced it, but now he seemed to feel a little. After a long while, Cheng Yan felt that he didn't seem to have such an impulsive experience, so he breathed a sigh of relief, but although there was no impulse, there was still an inexplicable irritability in Cheng Yan's heart, and now he didn't dare to eat this wild ginseng. I am afraid that if I eat all of this plant, I will be overwhelmed by the drug, which will be terrible. Besides him, there is only a male tiger who has lived for more than 20 years. There are no other animals here, so don't let it end badly. Cheng Yan tried to put this 1,000-year-old rare wild ginseng with 2/3 left into the system space. He had never tried to put these rare things before. He had tried some ordinary things before but failed to put them in. The only thing he put in was the Yongchun stone, but he got another one by punching in, so he didn't take it. Looking at the wild ginseng disappearing in front of him, Cheng Yan was surprised and really put it in. He quickly took a look at the system space and found that the 1,000-year-old wild ginseng in the corner of the space was in it. Not bad, not bad, the rare wild ginseng I got in the future can be put away, find more, and eat one whenever I want to eat it. This day is getting more and more promising. Cheng Yan is very satisfied with his life now. When he was a human, he could not do this. He would find wild ginseng to eat from time to time. Not to mention wild ginseng, he had never eaten even farmed ginseng. For him, who was just an ordinary office worker at that time, eating ginseng was just for curiosity, which was too extravagant. Now, let alone farmed ginseng, even if it was wild ginseng, 100-year-old wild ginseng, if it was not a treasure, he would not even look at it. What national first and second level protection, he can eat it if he wants, as long as he can catch it. Now, as long as he wants, he can eat beef and venison every day. Before, he could not eat venison or even beef every meal. But the only problem now is the estrus period. Cheng Yan does not know what animals will look like after the estrus period. I have only seen cats screaming in the middle of the night after estrus. The sound is harsh and a bit scary, and it can make people want to hit people. Now Cheng Yan only hoped that nothing else would happen after the tiger went into heat. He just vaguely remembered that the tiger's heat period only lasted a few days. If he just had the urge every day, he could just bear it. Turning his head to look at the giant tiger, Cheng Yan suppressed his inner irritability and left directly. After stepping out of this area, there were more animals around, but Cheng Yan was different at this time. Before, Cheng Yan was indifferent, but now he was filled with a sense of irritability. After hearing the movement around him, he couldn't help but roar. Roar! As the tiger roar spread throughout the forest, all kinds of animals around suddenly quieted down. No one dared to continue making noise, for fear that they would attract the tiger by making noise, and then they would be finished. Hearing the surroundings suddenly quiet down, Cheng Yan was satisfied. At this time, Cheng Yan finally understood why it is said that it is extremely dangerous to meet a wild tiger or a tiger in estrus in the wild. Tigers in estrus have a very bad temper. Even Cheng Yan is extremely irritable now. If someone else runs in front of him, Cheng Yan can only stay away if he doesn't want to hurt people. If they get too close, Cheng Yan is afraid that a full-strength tiger roar will make the person who approaches unable to walk, and there may be other situations. Cheng Yan is in this state, let alone other real wild tigers. They probably fight whatever they see, and all the rabbits passing by will be eaten. Cheng Yan, who was in an irritable mood, was not in the mood to stroll. He found a place to lie down and take a nap. At this time, Cheng Yan exuded the breath of "don't mess with me." If someone or an animal provokes him at this time, it is probably not a trivial matter. In this way, Cheng Yan suppressed himself and took a nap until the next day. Cheng Yan had not slept well because of the irritability, and he became even more irritable after getting up. It was irritating not to sleep well, and he became even more irritated when he had to suppress himself. As soon as he got up, Cheng Yan got up and roared in anger. After roaring, Cheng Yan felt a little better, so he opened the system and looked at the task punch in location. The distance of 10 kilometers was not too far, so Cheng Yan walked over slowly. After seeing Cheng Yan, the other animals on the road felt the momentum of Cheng Yan's stay-away aura, and they all ran away, not daring to stay at all. After walking slowly for 2 hours, Cheng Yan arrived at today's punch-in location. A small hill. When he arrived here, Cheng Yan started to punch in directly, for a punch-in time of 40 minutes. After watching the punch-in countdown start, Cheng Yan lay down and took a nap, waiting for the punch-in countdown to end. Chapter 123. 40 minutes later, Cheng Yan completed his punch-in task for today and received a full 2,000 kilograms of venison. After taking a look at the reward, Cheng Yan's mood did not fluctuate at all. He had no idea how much meat he had obtained. Even though he was now big and consumed a lot of meat, it would not take long for him to consume dozens of kilograms of meat, but it was enough for Cheng Yan, a tiger, to eat for a long time. After punching in, Cheng Yan planned to walk more to consume his vigorous energy. Walking in this uninhabited forest, Cheng Yan was too irritable now. He would chase any animal he saw for a distance to scare them. Whether it was a leopard, a sika deer, or a lynx, Cheng Yan didn't care whether the other party was a herbivore or a meat eater. It didn't matter to him anyway. As long as he chased, these animals would not dare to run. Cheng Yan didn't chase them at full speed. These animals ran away after a distance and Cheng Yan let them go. After playing for several hours, Cheng Yan stopped the hunting game and started to walk slowly. After walking for a while, Cheng Yan suddenly smelled a fragrance. Cheng Yan didn't want to eat these rare mountain delicacies for the time being, but his system space could collect these things, and Cheng Yan didn't mind finding these things and collecting them, and then taking them out and eating them when he wanted to eat them. Anyway, in the system space, there is no fear of spoiling them. So Cheng Yan walked towards the direction of the smell. Probably because of this fragrance, many predators were attracted. Cheng Yan saw several lynxes and leopards on the road. However, Cheng Yan's body was too big, and he was now irritable and exuded the aura of "don't disturb strangers." Those predators who originally wanted to compete for these rare mountain delicacies chose to give up directly after seeing Cheng Yan. They knew that with this big white tiger, they would definitely not be able to snatch it. Seeing that they were so tactful, Cheng Yan ignored them and let them leave. When Cheng Yan arrived at the place where the rare mountain delicacies were, he found that a brown bear was already guarding there. Cheng Yan glanced at the brown bear because he found that the brown bear looked a bit unique. It looked a bit different from other brown bears, which made Cheng Yan a little curious. How could these animals look different? The brown bear also noticed Cheng Yan's arrival. Seeing that Cheng Yan had been staring at it, it couldn't help but roared directly at Cheng Yan. Even though Cheng Yan didn't use the language of all things, he could roughly guess that it was probably something like, "What are you looking at?" Cheng Yan, who was already in a very irritable mood, rushed forward and slapped it without saying a word after hearing the roar. He knocked the brown bear down directly. Cheng Yan roared at the brown bear. "What's wrong with looking at you? Why are you roaring so loudly? You are the only one with a loud voice, right? You think I won't roar at you, right?" Cheng Yan roared, and he became even more angry. Cheng Yan, who was in a very irritable mood, did not stop even though the brown bear had been knocked down. After roaring, he raised his palm and slapped it several times. Even if he did not use all his strength, the brown bear had already fainted after these slaps. It was estimated that it would not wake up in a few hours. After the brown bear completely fainted, Cheng Yan let it go and turned to look at the predators attracted by the fragrance. When they saw Cheng Yan turned his head and looked at them, they ran away immediately. They didn't want this mountain delicacy. Cheng Yan sighed, and when they ran away, he looked at the mountain delicacy that exuded a fresh fragrance. It was the matsutake mushroom that Cheng Yan had eaten before. When Cheng Yan ate it, he thought it tasted very good, but this kind of precious mountain delicacy was too rare. Cheng Yan had not found one for so long, and he was not interested in ordinary matsutake mushrooms. Now that he finally found it, Cheng Yan was not going to eat it right away. After digging out the matsutake, Cheng Yan put it directly into the system space. After looking at the fainted brown bear, Cheng Yan ignored it and turned around and left. After strolling in the forest for a while, Cheng Yan found a place to rest. He had walked at least 30 or 40 kilometers today and consumed a lot of energy. Now there was no need to continue strolling. In the next few days, Cheng Yan basically strolled everywhere. He couldn't sleep unless he walked dozens of kilometers every day. He was too energetic. However, these few days have been hard for various animals in the forest. Usually, if you meet a tiger, you will worry about becoming its food at most, but if the tiger is full, it will not continue to hunt in many cases, and they will be relatively relieved. But this big tiger didn't care about people or tigers at all. Although he was not eaten, you can imagine that is it like a leopard sleeping soundly on a tree, suddenly shaken down by the tree and falling to the ground? The leopard was stunned for a while, and when it came to its senses, it found that it was a big white tiger patting the tree where it was sleeping. After it fell down, the tiger looked at it and left. Well, Cheng Yan felt that he didn't sleep well every day because he suppressed his impulses. Seeing this leopard sleeping so soundly, he couldn't stand it. He didn't sleep well, and this leopard wanted to sleep well? In addition to these things, there are many things that are not tiger-like. Cheng Yan did them a lot. Even if it was the fish in the river, Cheng Yan would jump into the river to chase them for a distance. You can imagine the experiences of various other animals that Cheng Yan met on his way. They can be said to be sad when they smelled it and cried when they heard it. If they couldn't beat it even if they gathered together, they would probably have to unite to find trouble with this big tiger. Cheng Yan's impulse lasted for about 10 days. On the 11th day after eating the precious 1,000-year-old wild ginseng, Cheng Yan suddenly felt better after waking up. The impulse was gone, and his mood was no longer irritable, which made Cheng Yan very happy. He couldn't help but let out a joyful roar, which resulted in many animals in this area hiding, fearing that they would be seen by the tiger. On the way to complete the latest punch-in task, Cheng Yan was smiling all the time, but when he smiled, the animals who saw him were scared. Smiling Cheng Yan had no idea that his fangs were also exposed. When the animals saw this scene, the timid ones were scared to death. Cheng Yan, who was in a good mood, was kind enough to hide these fainted little guys in a hidden place to avoid being picked up by some predators. Well, but it is estimated that no predator would dare to set foot in this area after smelling his scent. Chapter 124. Cheng Yan came to today's check-in location in a good mood, and then found that he seemed to have left the no-man's land, but he was not surprised. He had walked for hundreds of kilometers in the past few days, which meant that the route he took was not a straight line, otherwise he would have walked out long ago. This time, the place where he checked in was already at the edge of the forest. He was on a small hill at this time. Looking down from a distance, he could clearly see a small village below. After taking a look at the village below, Cheng Yan started to check in. Half an hour of check-in time. In the past few days, Cheng Yan has obtained a lot of things. He has obtained 8 attribute points, although the points allocated to each attribute are not much. In addition, he has obtained a lot of food and drink. While strolling in the forest, Cheng Yan also encountered several rare mountain delicacies, which Cheng Yan put into the system space. While waiting for the countdown to check in, Cheng Yan sat directly on this hillside and looked around. These days, he was very annoyed, but today he finally got better. He came to a new place again, and his curiosity came up again. He was ready to see if there were any fun places here. Half an hour passed quickly. Cheng Yan did not stay here after completing the check-in. He got up and went down the hillside directly. After walking for a while, Cheng Yan suddenly found an old man. The old man was walking in the forest with a backpack on his back, as if searching for something. Cheng Yan was bored, and saw someone coming in the forest, so he followed him directly to see what the old man was doing. The old man walked in the forest, and from time to time he would squat down and carefully identify the various grasses on the ground. Some would be taken out after a glance and put in the backpack, and some would just look at them and would not be picked. What is he doing? Digging wild grass? Cheng Yan looked at the scene in front of him with a lot of question marks in his mind, and he didn't understand what the old man was doing. So he curiously followed the old man for 2 or 3 hours until the old man found a ginseng, dug it out and put it in the backpack, and Cheng Yan understood. This ginseng is not wild ginseng, but forest ginseng, which is half cultivated and half wild ginseng. Compared with wild ginseng, the value of forest ginseng is much lower, but it is still very expensive. Cheng Yan saw the old man digging this ginseng and realized that many of the grasses picked by the old man before were some herbs, such as Gastrotia elata and Asarum. After knowing that the old man was digging herbs, Cheng Yan approached and sniffed. His sensitive sense of smell could easily smell the strong smell of Chinese medicine on the old man. Maybe this old man is an old Chinese medicine doctor who treats people in the village. Sometimes he boils Chinese medicine himself. Over time, he also carries this smell of Chinese medicine. At this moment, the old man suddenly rang. He took out his cell phone and answered it. A voice came from inside. Uncle Li, Xiaolin just went out to play and his arm seems to have been broken. Where are you now? Can you take a look at Xiaolin? I'm collecting herbs on the mountain. Go to my house and wait. I'll be back soon. Then the old man turned around and walked down the mountain. Cheng Yan thought for a moment and followed him. He heard everything the man who had just called said. He actually went to the doctor in his village for a broken arm, which showed that the old man's medical skills were very good, otherwise he might have been sent to the hospital long ago. Cheng Yan had always heard that some Chinese medicine practitioners were very powerful, and some could even use their hands to connect a person with a comminuted fracture of the hand. There was no surgery throughout the process, and the person recovered very well in the end, basically the same as an uninjured hand. The person on the phone said that it was broken, and he called this old man, which showed that the old man had treated diseases such as broken hands and feet before, and the effect was good. He didn't want to miss such a wonderful thing. Before following the old man down the forest, Cheng Yan had already used his ability to turn himself into the size of a kitten. After walking down the mountain, the old man came to a house after a few steps. This house has a small yard, with an iron gate in the middle, and a lock on it. Next to the house, a man in his 30s was holding a crying little boy, who looked about 7 or 8 years old. When the old man came over, the man happened to see the old man and hurriedly walked up with the little boy. Uncle Li, come and see Xiaolin. His right arm seems to be broken. Take off his clothes, let me feel it. The two took off the boy's upper body clothes together. The old man carefully checked the boy's right arm and touched it a few times. Maybe the strength of his hand was a bit heavy. The boy was already crying with tears, and now he cried even louder. It's broken, but fortunately, it's not broken. Displacement, apply a plaster, it will be fine after a while, I will make him a plaster, he will get better faster. The man was obviously relieved after hearing this. Thank you very much, Uncle Li, how much is it? Give me 50 yuan, the cost of plaster and plaster. The old man turned and walked towards his home, took out the key to open the iron door, and came out with things within 2 minutes. Cheng Yan watched this scene carefully from the side, a little surprised at the old man's strength. Just a few touches, it can be determined that it is a fracture and there is no displacement. It is really impossible without some experience, but this old man is so old, he looks like he is in his 50s or 60s, it is normal for this to happen. Soon, the little boy's right arm was put on a plaster, the man took out the money and gave it to Old Man Li, and then carried the little boy away. Old Man Li also turned and went into his house. Cheng Yan looked at the house with the door open, and walked in slowly. As soon as he entered the house, Cheng Yan smelled a strong smell of Chinese medicinal materials, and then he saw some Chinese medicinal herbs were drying in the yard. When Cheng Yan walked into the room, he found that the old man had come to a small room with a backpack and was fiddling with the Chinese medicinal herbs he had picked. Cheng Yan's kitten-like body and the pads on his feet made him walk without any sound. The old man did not notice Cheng Yan's arrival and was still busy with his work. Cheng Yan sat down next to him and watched with relish. Many Chinese medicinal herbs cannot be used directly after being picked. They need to be processed before they can be used. For example, aconite is poisonous. After processing, the toxicity will be weakened, but it will still be there. In traditional Chinese medicine, those who can use aconite well are generally very powerful traditional Chinese medicine practitioners. Some medicinal herbs can be used directly, but after processing, they can be more convenient to preserve. Chapter 125. Cheng Yan was watching the room with great interest until Old Man Li noticed something. He was busy with something in his hand, but suddenly turned his head to look at Cheng Yan. Hey? Where did the kitten come from? Old Man Li carefully looked at Cheng Yan's appearance at this time, and then his face changed. He put down the herbs he was busy with, stood up and walked towards Cheng Yan. Cheng Yan jumped back and dodged the hand that Old Man Li stretched out. Old Man Li paused, and did not continue to try to catch the little tiger in front of him. Yes, he had recognized that this one was not a cat but a little tiger. Little guy, didn't your parents come? Old Man Li was a little surprised at the courage of this little tiger. Although tigers are very fierce, the premise is that they are grown-up tigers, not the baby tiger in front of him. This little tiger may not be able to beat a big goose. Cheng Yan snorted disdainfully. Let alone my adults, even if I were to return to my original size, you would be shocked. The whole body of a tiger is full of treasures. Especially a white tiger like you, tiger blood, tiger bones and tiger whips are all good things. Very tonic. Old Man Li looked at Cheng Yan and said with some emotion. Cheng Yan narrowed his eyes when he heard it. What do you want to think of me? However, Old Man Li only said it. It seemed that he had no intention of attacking Cheng Yan. Instead, he turned around and walked out of the room where the medicinal materials were prepared and walked into the opposite room. He took out a piece of meat from it and threw it to Cheng Yan. Little guy, are you hungry? Can you eat meat now? Cheng Yan glanced at the meat on the ground, raised his head and looked at Old Man Li with disdain. Hey! You're not eating yet, are you scared? Don't worry, little guy, I have no idea about you. It's not like I haven't used tiger bones, tiger blood, and tiger penis before. I've used tiger blood and tiger penis, but I still have some tiger bones here. Old Man Li turned and entered a room, and soon took out 2 bones. Cheng Yan looked at the 2 bones in front of him, his eyes fixed. One of the bones looked like a leg bone, and he couldn't tell whether it was a tiger bone, but the other one was a tiger skull. Oh my god, has this man beaten a tiger? When did he beat it? Why hasn't he been arrested? Cheng Yan was a little surprised. This old man was more powerful than he thought. He thought he was just a village doctor with good medical skills, but to have 2 tiger bones, this old man was not an ordinary person. Uncle Li, Uncle Li. It's bad. There's a fight between our village and the neighboring village. Several people are injured. They seem to be dying. We've carried them here. Come and have a look. A voice suddenly came from outside the room, followed by many footsteps. Old Man Li immediately closed the door of Cheng Yan's room, and then went out to check the situation. Cheng Yan was locked in the room, with a question mark on his head. What does it mean? Do you want to lock me up? Or do you not want me to be seen by others? He looked at the door handle, which was pressed down. Cheng Yan jumped up and pressed it, opened the door of the room, and walked out. Hiding behind the door, Cheng Yan carefully looked out and found that many people had come outside at this time, and there were several people who were carried and placed on the ground, with blood on their bodies. Cheng Yan looked around. It was too easy for him to be seen here. If he wanted to watch the show, he had to find a better position. Soon, Cheng Yan found the stairs to the upper floor. Cheng Yan rushed over in a flash, ran upstairs in a few steps, came to the room on the second floor, jumped onto the windowsill and looked down. Old Man Li was rescuing these people. Two of them seemed to be bleeding in the stomach at this time. Old Man Li held a needle in his hand and seemed to be pricking the acupuncture points to stop the bleeding. After a few injections by Old Man Li, the bleeding area began to slowly reduce the amount of bleeding. He checked the other people lying on the ground one after another and found that there was nothing serious. Then he looked at the others. What's going on? Is this a knife? The people around were a little bit difficult to answer by Old Man Li's words. They hesitated for a long time and couldn't say anything. Finally, Old Man Li pointed to a middle-aged man and said, "Lin boy, what's going on?" Middle-aged man Lin Qian sighed, "We are not in the right." When Lin Yuan and his brothers were hiking in the mountains, they dug up a wild ginseng plant from a hiker in the neighboring Gujia village. The wild ginseng plant was first discovered by Gujia village and tied with a red rope. When the people from Gujia village came to find it, the Lin Yuan brothers wanted to beat them up. Old Man Li frowned, "Wild ginseng? How old is it?" "More than 40 years old, it can be worth dozens of dollars." "More than 40 years old?" Gujia village found it but didn't dig it up. Old Man Li was a little surprised. Although Cheng Yan could find it in the mountains from time to time, the wild ginseng is several decades or even hundreds of years old, but he is deep in the forest. Few people go to such places, and mountain hikers dare not set foot easily. After so many years of searching in the outer forest, it is extremely lucky to find a wild ginseng of several decades. When Gujia village found it, they saw that this wild ginseng was almost 50 years old. "Uncle Li, you also know that the value difference between wild ginseng 50 years old and 50 years old is a bit big, so they didn't dig it." Old Man Li looked at the people lying on the ground, and his brows never relaxed. "I can't do anything about these people. You should send them to the hospital. I can only reduce their bleeding and temporarily prevent them from bleeding to death." "Uncle Li, okay, let's call an ambulance." Lin Qian could only accept it helplessly. He knew that it was not that Old Man Li couldn't save them, but that he didn't want to save them. Old Man Li's medical skills were well known in their entire village and many surrounding villages and towns. Several of his apprentices could be deputy chief physicians in the city's top 3 hospitals. However, Old Man Li hated people who didn't follow the rules. These young men really broke the rules. He didn't want to save them, and Lin Qian couldn't force him. Soon, the ambulance arrived. The doctor in the ambulance lifted all the people on the car and then drove to the hospital. Lin Qian followed him because he was the leader of the mountain runners on their side, and these people were also mountain runners, so he had to go and see them. After everyone left, Old Man Li turned around and went back to the house. The first thing he did after returning was to go to Cheng Yan's room. As a result, when he stepped into the room, he was surprised to find that the door was opened, and the little tiger didn't know where it ran away. At this time, Cheng Yan finished watching the show on the second floor and was still sighing that this old man was pretty good. After knowing that those young people didn't follow the rules, he didn't save them directly. Such a temper is too awesome. However, Cheng Yan also knew that this kind of person was also capable, and others didn't dare to provoke him. Chapter 126. In the village, if a doctor in a village can save people but doesn't do it, other people won't be willing to do it if he doesn't have some skills. There are many people who come to make trouble. Although they can be saved in the hospital, Cheng Yan saw it when the old man examined the broken arm of the child. He just touched it and confirmed the situation, and the plaster only cost 50 yuan in total. This price is quite low. If you go to the hospital, you have to take an X-ray and then find a doctor to make an appointment. It will cost several hundred yuan to go there and back, and it will take time. It's not like the old man, who finished the examination and applied the plaster in less than 3 minutes. If they go to the hospital, those people will probably spend a lot of money. "Hey, you are here, be careful, don't run around, be careful not to be seen by others, be careful not to be beaten and eaten as a dragon-tiger fight." Old Man Li found the upstairs and saw Cheng Yan lying next to the window. He smiled and said something, not caring whether the little tiger could understand him. Cheng Yan was now more curious about the identity of this old man. An old man with tiger bones and such powerful medical skills, but he was a village doctor in this village? After seeing Cheng Yan on the second floor, the old man felt relieved. He glanced at the clock on the wall and found that it was already afternoon. He hadn't eaten lunch yet, so he simply went downstairs to cook. After a while, a fragrance came upstairs. Cheng Yan sniffed it and felt a little hungry. He smelled the smell of bacon and sausage. Cheng Yan liked to eat these very much, but he was already a tiger during the Chinese New Year this year and didn't eat them. Now he still wanted to eat them. Cheng Yan jumped off the windowsill and went downstairs. At this time, the old man was busy in the kitchen. Cheng Yan simply walked around the old man's house and found that there were many rooms, equivalent to a small country villa, with 8 rooms and 2 living rooms. However, he found that there was only one bedroom on the second floor, and most of the other rooms were empty, with only medicinal materials piled up in some rooms. Does this old man live alone? After walking around the house for a while, the old man soon brought 3 dishes in a bowl of white rice and put them on the table. Cheng Yan jumped onto the table and rolled his eyes when he saw the old man sitting down like this. No. You old man are not smart, didn't you see that uncle who was sitting on the table like this? Don't you know to give uncle who a portion too? Watching the old man stretch out his chopsticks and start eating, Cheng Yan stretched out his claws to hook a piece of crystal clear bacon and stuffed it into his mouth. After chewing a few times, Cheng Yan's eyes lit up. Not bad. Although it is a little different from the bacon he ate before, it tastes great and has a unique flavor. Seeing Cheng Yan was about to stretch out his claws again, the old man couldn't help but said. What's the matter? You didn't eat the raw meat just now, but you want to eat this bacon? Can you eat it? I'm eating it, do you think you can eat it? Cheng Yan ignored the old man and hooked a sausage and stuffed it into his mouth. He took a look at the dish next to him, a stir-fried cabbage, but Cheng Yan didn't eat it. He just started to hook the bacon and sausage with his claws. His movements were very fast, and basically both plates of bacon and sausage entered his stomach. With such a small amount of food, Cheng Yan certainly didn't feel full, but he just satisfied his appetite. When he had eaten almost everything, he didn't continue to eat. The old man also let Cheng Yan eat a lot of bacon and sausage. After he was full, he cleaned up the dishes and chopsticks and put the things in the kitchen. As a result, as soon as he arrived in the kitchen, someone came. They were 2 ants in their 50s. They started to curse before they even reached the door of Old Man Li's house. Seeing that there was another good show to watch, Cheng Yan immediately ran upstairs, still the best viewing position before, and looked down. Old Man Li was in the kitchen. After hearing the scolding, and it was scolding him, he didn't hesitate and went out to scold directly. Good guy. This old man is so good at scolding people. Cheng Yan was on the second floor and his jaw almost dropped. He had seen that the old man's medical skills were good before, and he thought that the old man's temper was just a little weird, but he didn't expect that he would scold people so badly this time. Other villagers who heard the noise had come to watch a long time ago, but the old man was too fierce, and the 2 ants who were scolded by one person couldn't stand it. Seeing that they couldn't get any benefits, they could only leave a harsh word and run away. Cheng Yan heard from the surrounding villagers that these 2 ants were the mothers of the brothers who were injured before. When they found that Old Man Li didn't heal their baby sons, they came directly to the door, but they were scolded by Old Man Li and ran away. Cheng Yan also learned a lot about Old Man Li from the villagers' conversations. He was a capable man, but he had been in the village since he went to the countryside. He had saved many people around him over the years, and although he had a bad temper, he was very worthy of the people around him. Villagers, when treating illnesses, only charge for the medicine, and their medical skills are very good, and they treat all kinds of people. He also taught several apprentices, and those apprentices are also very promising, living well in the city and the province, and 2 of them are even deputy chief physicians and chief physicians in tertiary hospitals. Those apprentices would come back to see Old Man Li every once in a while. But this old man is not an easy person to get along with, and if someone troubles him, he will definitely go back. In addition, this old man seems to have practiced, and some young boys once wanted to steal medicine from his house to sell, but the old man broke their arms in a few strokes. When the police came, the young boys had 2 arms and 1 leg dislocated except for 1 leg that could move. As a result, I found out today that this old man is so good at scolding people. Wow! The old man is so powerful, and you can't tell from his appearance. Cheng Yan was a little surprised, but thinking that the old man came from the countryside, he understood why he was so powerful but still stayed here. He probably didn't want to go anywhere else and was too lazy to move. After the villagers below had dispersed, Cheng Yan glanced at the clock hanging behind him. It was already past 4 in the afternoon. The quarrel lasted for a long time, and the villagers chatted after the quarrel, which also took a long time. Cheng Yan was very satisfied with watching the play today and eating sausages and bacon. Then he turned around and jumped off the windowsill, went downstairs, walked out of his house in front of Old Man Li, and started walking into the forest. Seeing this, Old Man Li thought about it and didn't stop him. He didn't think such a small cub could walk around so freely. Maybe the mother tiger was sleeping by the forest, and the little tiger couldn't stay and sneaked out to play. As for seeing wild big tigers, he has seen them several times in these years. This side is close to the forest, and those wild big tigers will run down from time to time to stroll around. Chapter 127. After returning to the forest, Cheng Yan saw that the sky had gradually darkened, and he didn't want to continue strolling. He just found a place to rest. Early the next morning, Cheng Yan got up and stretched, and then prepared to start punching in today. Strolling in the forest, Cheng Yan yawned as he walked. He didn't sleep well last night and had a dream all night, but this dream was a bit erotic. He didn't understand. He had already passed the estrus period, why did he still dream about those things? Fortunately, after waking up during the day, he didn't feel much, so he didn't have to suppress himself, otherwise Cheng Yan would become irritable again. Walking slowly, his big head looked around and saw a tree hole on a big tree. Cheng Yan walked over, put his front paw on the tree, and took a look inside. Found a lot of pine nuts and various nuts. Cheng Yan thought of the nuts he had eaten before and smacked his lips twice. He hadn't eaten them for a long time, and he was really a little greedy. In the past, his tiger paw couldn't get into such a small tree hole. If he wanted to get these nuts out, he had to break the tree. The last time he ate them, it was the white fox that got them out. But now he doesn't have to break the big tree or find other small animals to get them out. He can become small and get them out by himself. After becoming the size of a kitten, Cheng Yan jumped to the height of the tree hole with one jump, then dug one paw into the tree hole and used the other paw to get the pine nuts and nuts out. Squeak! Cheng Yan had just taken out more than 10 nuts when a squeaking sound came from the tree next to him. Cheng Yan turned his head and saw a chipmunk on the tree next to him calling out, as if saying that this was the food it stored, so don't touch it. Chipmunks are a species of squirrels, Sciuridae, chipmunk genus, and they usually have several black-brown vertical stripes on their bodies. If the chipmunk may not know much, then this species of squirrel is the one that often says yes. In short videos. Cheng Yan looked at the chipmunk and suddenly became interested. He ignored the nuts he took out. Now he is still the size of a kitten. Although it is much bigger than this chipmunk, compared with the tiger size, this chipmunk is still not too timid and has great courage. When Cheng Yan looked over, the chipmunk was still squeaking. With one step, he rushed straight to the tree where the chipmunk was. Now Cheng Yan is still a kitten, running on the tree with sharp claws, and rushed up in a few steps. The chipmunk was directly held down by Cheng Yan. Looking at the chipmunk in front of him, Cheng Yan felt that this chipmunk was the one he often saw in short videos, and it looked very similar. Picking up the chipmunk, Cheng Yan shook it and shouted, "For me." Shout yes. I'm tired of hearing this. After shaking it a few times, the chipmunk's eyes turned white, and Cheng Yan put it down. Okay, this chipmunk can only squeak but can't speak. Cheng Yan's eyes were full of regret. Even though he knew it was dubbed later, if there was a chipmunk that could really talk, he would definitely raise it, let it eat and drink well, and keep it as a pet. It's just a pity that this chipmunk can't talk. After rubbing it twice, Cheng Yan put the chipmunk back into the tree hole. Returning to the place where he had just taken out the nuts, Cheng Yan began to peel and eat the nuts. Hey, the taste doesn't seem to be so good? What's going on? Is it because it's been stored for a long time? Cheng Yan ate a few and felt that the taste was not good, so he threw the rest directly on the spot and turned away. When the chipmunk woke up, he naturally knew to move these things back to the tree hole. After strolling in the forest for a while, his punch-in task was refreshed. Cheng Yan took a look at the punch-in location. 5 kilometers is not far, but this direction is deep in the mountains. He walked slowly to the punch-in location and arrived without spending too much time. The punch-in location this time is a relatively desolate forest. The leaves on many trees have just sprouted at this time, and they look bare from a distance. However, when Cheng Yan came here, he found that there were traces of people here. This is no longer the periphery of the forest, but very close to the inside of the forest. Although it is close to the forest, it is not too strange to have traces left by people. It's just that Cheng Yan saw that this trace was left recently, and it may even have been left not long ago. Cheng Yan looked around and didn't find anyone. After thinking about it, he ignored it. In the wild, he met someone, and he was not afraid of him, but the person. Half an hour of punch in time, there is nothing to see here. Cheng Yan only took a glance and then lay down to take a nap. He ended up taking a nap. Cheng Yan fell asleep. While Cheng Yan was sleeping, a young man in his 20s was so nervous that he dared not breathe loudly more than 100 meters away from him. This Bai Yuan is a live streamer who does wilderness survival. He always stays in the wild for a few days, shoots himself, and edits and posts on short video websites after returning to the city. Because he is much more realistic than other live streamers, he has quite a lot of fans. This time he came to Chenbai Mountain to stay for a while. Although he is relatively realistic, he dare not easily set foot in places like the deep Chenbai Mountains, because there are too many top predators here. Whether he encounters a leopard, a black bear or a Siberian tiger, he basically has to die. But in order to be more realistic, he deliberately came to a place very close to the depths. Occasionally, people still come to these places, and there are traces left by many people. As a result, he had just found a relatively good place, and then he went out to look for something to eat. As a result, when he came back, he found a huge white tiger sleeping in the place he had just found. This white tiger was bigger than he had ever seen before. Even the tiger kings that had been reported before might not be as big as this tiger, and this tiger was white. Bai Yuan looked at the white tiger in front of him, and thought of the big tiger eating barbecue and grilled squid that became popular in a short video some time ago. He took out his mobile phone and took a look, and found that this big tiger was just a little fatter than the one in the video. It was exactly the same. In addition, this was Chenbai Mountain, so Bai Yuan was sure that the big tiger in front of him was the one in the previous video. Bai Yuan looked distressed. This big tiger had no intention of hurting people in the video, and it would eat barbecue. It looked very friendly, but he didn't dare to gamble. What if the white tiger was full at that time and came to eat barbecue to satisfy his tooth? Now it was hungry, and his appearance was just delivering it to the door, right? Chapter 128. Bai Yuan was helpless. He probably couldn't go on with the Bayesian version of wild survival this time. He didn't want to really fight against wild Siberian tigers for the sake of filming materials. Without weapons, who would be the opponent of such a big guy? Even if there were weapons, if you killed a first-level protected one, you would have to spend the rest of your life in prison. It was unnecessary, really unnecessary. But soon, Bai Yuan was happy because the big tiger woke up and seemed to be ready to leave. Cheng Yan yawned. He didn't expect that he would fall asleep while waiting for the clock in time. He took a look at the system reward, 2 attribute points. Now that the clock-in is completed, Cheng Yan is ready to leave. There is nothing fun here, and there are very few animals. Hey? This smell? Cheng Yan moved his nose. His keen sense of smell detected that there seemed to be other smells nearby, the same as the smell left here, and it came from other places, not the residual smell here. After thinking about it, Cheng Yan did not look around, but left here as usual. After walking away, Cheng Yan circled around and came back. He wanted to see who was here and what he was going to do here. It happened that he had just finished punching in today and had nothing to do. It would be nice to have someone to entertain him. At least, if nothing else, someone would be scared if they saw a tiger of his size. After Bai Yuan watched the white tiger leave, he waited for a while and made sure that the white tiger would not come back. Bai Yuan carefully stepped forward. He wanted to take the supplies he had left behind. After putting all the supplies into his backpack, Bai Yuan looked at the resting place he had chosen with a little entanglement. A big tiger came here and slept here. The remaining tiger smell here was enough for him to live safely for the next few days. But he was afraid that the tiger would come back. At that time, as long as the tiger had any ideas about him, he could basically declare it a waste. But he didn't really want to leave here and find another place to live. The timing of his coming to Chenbai Mountain was not very good. Although it has been spring for a while now, it will soon enter May. But the black bears in Chenbai Mountain have woken up from hibernation for a few days, but they are still very hungry and have not completely recovered to the state they want. Now they want to eat anything they can beat. People are also on their menu. As for giving up the materials this time, he had this idea before, but at that time he was sure that the tiger stayed in the place where he got it before, and there were a lot of supplies there. It would be very difficult for him to survive in the forests of Chenbai Mountain without those supplies. Now that the supplies are back, he has fewer thoughts about going back. After all, he has already posted a preview of his survival in the wilderness of Chenbai Mountain in a short video. If he goes back this time, his fans will not be very happy. Even if he goes down the mountain and finds a new place to choose to complete this wilderness survival, it will take a lot of time. You know, he did a lot of homework when he came to Chenbai Mountain this time, and he made sure that there were few black bears in this place, and he made sure that this place was not in the territory of the Siberian tiger. Who would have thought that the white tiger would actually run here from the Chenbai Mountain scenic area? The distance between them is not short. This tiger is really good at walking. Bai Yuan hesitated for a long time, and finally decided to take a gamble, betting that the white tiger would not come back. Even if the white tiger came back, it would not hurt anyone from the situation seen in the video. After making the decision, Bai Yuan did not hesitate, and started today's work directly, plugged in the video equipment, and started to get all the things he needed to live here during this period. He just needs to do it seriously, rarely speak, and after everything is recorded, he will directly dub and comment. At a distance from him, Cheng Yan hid behind a big tree, only sticking out his big head to watch the young man busy there. After watching for a while, Cheng Yan seemed to understand what the young man was doing. Is this recording wilderness survival? Good guy, running to Chenbai Mountain to survive in the wilderness in this season? Cheng Yan had seen a lot of wilderness survival videos before. There are many types, such as Dayat, Bear Grylls, and several other types. Some rely on express delivery sent by fans to find a place to survive, and some rely on local supplies to survive. But Cheng Yan knows that this kind of recorded video is actually quite watered down. In addition to some staged ones, there are anchors who really record this kind of wilderness survival in the wild, but it is impossible to go completely empty-handed, and they must bring a lot of things. After all, being in the wild is really not as imagined. It's not that simple, at least for people nowadays. It's very difficult to get through in the early stage. Let's not talk about anything else. People always have to eat, drink, defecate and urinate. Let's not talk about eating for now, let's talk about defecation. If a person has only clothes and defecates in the wild, what should he do? Either don't wipe it, or find leaves or something else. This kind of thing will make many people feel unbearable, and even if leaves are used, few people can recognize many leaves in the wild now. For example, if someone who doesn't know it grabs this to wipe it, it may be painful for a while. The key is that there are not so many people who can recognize it in the wild now. At least 1/3 of the people in the country have never seen this thing. They may have heard of it, but they have definitely never seen what it looks like in the wild. Looking at the person in front of him, Cheng Yan felt it was quite strange, because he found that this person also had some things in his hand, but only a small knife and a backpack. Cheng Yan hadn't seen what was inside. But he found that this young man used a small knife to quickly make a simple shelter. Although it may not have the function of keeping out the rain, and even leaks some wind, it is already very good compared to having no shelter at all. After the young man finished making the shelter, he started to make some small things. At first, Cheng Yan didn't understand, but as the things gradually took shape, Cheng Yan understood that the young man wanted to make a trap, maybe to catch some small animals as food. The thing made by the young man is a simple trap, probably a lid, with a wooden stick underneath to support it, and a thin rope on the wooden stick. When any small animal enters, it can be locked in by pulling it. Cheng Yan played with this kind of thing when he was a child, but he didn't make it by hand, he used ready-made ones. Chapter 129. Wow, this guy is really good. Cheng Yan watched the guy make a simple trap without much effort, and the rope was even made by hand, using some tree bark. This opened Cheng Yan's eyes. He thought that he would give it a try when he had a chance in the future. However, after seeing his soft and furry tiger paw, Cheng Yan was silent. His tiger paw might not be easy to rub with tree bark. After Bai Yuan made the simple trap, he carried it out of his residence and began to look for traces of prey. His trap can be operated manually, or it can be made to cover the animal when the animal knocks down the stick. But he didn't have anything to attract small animals to eat. If he wanted to wait for the small animals to come to him, he needed to find something to attract small animals. Soon, he found some things that were easier to attract small animals to eat, and put some in the trap. He stood far away, holding the thin rope in his hand and waiting quietly. Cheng Yan hid in the distance and watched for a long time. He almost fell asleep, but no animals appeared. Cheng Yan let out a sigh of relief and became a little impatient. As soon as he was about to get up, his body froze. He thought of a problem. He was guarding not far away from here. What kind of animal dared to run out and run around? He was still in the upwind position. Any smell could be smelled by various animals in the wild. These animals in the wild are very vigilant. They would hide at the slightest sign of trouble. Those with low vigilance would have been the food of other animals. Hey! In the end, it was my problem? Cheng Yan scratched his head with his tiger claws and quickly thought of a way. Since these little guys didn't come out and didn't fall into the trap, he could help. Cheng Yan immediately used his ability to reduce his size a lot and turned into the size of a cat. Then he used his sensitive sense of smell to search for any little guys nearby. Soon, he smelled the smell of rabbits. After finding the rabbit cave, Cheng Yan went straight in. The rabbit cave was full of passages, winding and twisting. Cheng Yan's sense of smell was very strong, so he could easily identify the location of the rabbit inside, otherwise he would probably get lost inside. After Cheng Yan found a rabbit, he chased it out directly, and then started to rush towards the direction of the young man's trap at a speed much faster than the rabbit. When he was almost at the location of the trap, Cheng Yan stopped and began to hide to see the situation. In the end, I don't know if it was because the rabbit was too fast, or because the young man didn't expect a rabbit to suddenly come out and reacted a bit slower. When he pulled the rope, the rabbit had already run under the trap. Squeak! I didn't catch it. Cheng Yan squeaked in dissatisfaction. He took great effort to get a rabbit over, but he didn't catch it. Bai Yuan found that this method might not work. If he did it manually, it would be too time-consuming and laborious, and he might not get anything. It would be better to make it automatic, and wait for the unlucky guy to touch the stick and be caught directly. After carefully working on it and making sure that the stick would fall to the ground with just a slight touch, Bai Yuan left here and prepared to do other things. However, he hadn't eaten anything today. He only had breakfast when he set out in the morning. It was already afternoon, and he was hungry, but he hadn't found anything to eat yet, so he had no choice. After thinking for a while, Bai Yuan began to look carefully on the surrounding trees. Cheng Yan looked at Bai Yuan's actions in confusion not far away. What was this guy doing? Not hunting? When he saw this guy find a tree hole and start to take things out of the tree hole, Cheng Yan reacted. Good guy, being a thief, stealing the food that the squirrels had worked hard to store, right? Cheng Yan completely ignored the fact that he had also taken a lot of pine nuts and nuts from squirrels before, and even knocked the squirrel unconscious, and began to strongly condemn the young man's behavior of being a thief in his heart. Bai Yuan looked at the pine nuts and nuts in his hand with surprise. He didn't expect that after winter, there would be so many pine nuts and nuts in this tree hole. He thought that the squirrels had eaten them almost all in winter. With these nuts and pine nuts, he has replenished the energy consumed today and in the next period of time. You should know that these nuts and pine nuts have a high fat content and contain a lot of calories. A few of them are enough to meet the calories needed by the human body for a day. People who are losing weight will definitely not lose weight if they eat these as snacks. Bai Yuan kept digging in this tree hole until it was empty, and then stopped. Squeak! The tree next to him, the last chipmunk, just came out of the tree hole and felt that the sky had fallen. One of its storages was looted. Bai Yuan heard the chipmunk's cry, turned around and saw this chipmunk, and his eyes lit up. Isn't this meat? Although it may be only a little bit. But it is also meat. Although chipmunks are very cute and many people keep them as pets, Bai Yuan is a wilderness survival anchor. It's about survival in the wild. In the face of life and death, cute things are not worth mentioning, such as the rabbit that just ran away. For some people, rabbits are also very cute, but it doesn't affect eating it at all. However, it is too difficult to catch a squirrel in a tree. The squirrel moves very fast and can climb to the top of the tree in a blink of an eye. In addition, its weight is very light, and it can stand on even very thin branches. It is very difficult for people to catch it with bare hands. The chipmunk probably sensed the ill intentions of the biped in front of it, and rushed to the top of the tree, squeaking and yelling, probably cursing, and the curses might be very unpleasant. Seeing this scene, Bai Yuan knew that the squirrel was on guard, so he had to give up the idea of catching it for the time being. He returned to his residence with the pine nuts he had taken out, and found food. Next, he needed to do other things. Cheng Yan hid in the distance and relied on his powerful eyesight to see this side clearly. Watching people survive in the wild was much more interesting than him, a tiger, wandering around in the mountains and forests. After all, you can't always encounter interesting things when wandering around. Many times, you just look at various scenery in the mountains and forests. It's okay at the beginning, you will feel novel, but later it depends on you, and you have no interest at all. Chapter 130. Bai Yuan worked for a long time, and he was busy until dark before he finished what he needed for today. It was late at night, and Bai Yuan was in the forest, and he didn't dare to run around. It was more dangerous at night than during the day, because many predators were active at night and slept during the day. Bai Yuan prepared to go to bed early under the shelter he built. Only if he rested well enough, he would have enough energy to complete other things the next day. Every time he came to the wild to survive, he would do something exciting, so that people would not feel dull. This time he planned to stay in Chenbai Mountain for a week. If he did something exciting, he might just meet some wild animals, but he now hoped to meet some herbivores, such as sika deer, silly roe deer, etc. If not, flying dragons would also be fine. With these national protected animals on the screen, there would be no shortage of people watching. Thinking about things in his mind, Bai Yuan fell asleep. He had been busy all day today and was tired. He fell asleep soon after lying down. Bai Yuan had no idea that his actions were all seen by a big tiger. When he fell asleep, Cheng Yan came out from his hiding place. At this time, he had already recovered to his original size. He watched the outdoor survival skills exhibition for a day and found it very interesting. While watching, he also took out a lot of rare mountain delicacies from the system space to eat as popcorn. It is best to watch a show with food. Now, while the young man is asleep, he is going to give him a surprise. Coming to the shelter where the young man was sleeping, Cheng Yan glanced at the recording machine, and then looked at the young man who was sleeping soundly. A smile appeared on his face, but this smile made his tiger teeth show. It was clearly filmed. If someone saw it, no one would think it was a smile. It was more likely that the tiger was hungry and wanted to eat. Cheng Yan looked at the shelter in front of him, compared his own body size, and found that it could barely accommodate it, so Cheng Yan carefully squeezed in, lay down next to Bai Yuan, and then began to sleep. Before going to bed, he just wanted to laugh when he thought about the expression that this young man might show when he found him tomorrow. Bai Yuan, who was originally drowsy, felt a little cold, but soon felt a lot warmer. He was still in a daze and was still thinking in his mind whether the shelter he built was so powerful and the warming effect was so good. He never thought that he would sleep next to a tiger. The tiger is a pure yang body, and its whole body is warm. Of course, sleeping next to it will feel warm. I don't know how long it took. Bai Yuan wanted to turn over in a daze, but found that he seemed to be pressed by a ghost and couldn't move at all. Bai Yuan, who was still asleep, didn't think much at this time, but struggled hard to turn over. Suddenly, Bai Yuan's body stiffened, and he flashed in his mind that he was recording materials in the wild of Chenbai Mountain at this time, not at home. This flash of thought made him sober up instantly, and he opened his eyes in a flash. The first thing he saw when he opened his eyes was a huge claw on his body. A tiger claw. Bai Yuan slowly moved his head and tilted his head to look at the place next to him where he felt warm before. A big tiger, lying next to him at some point. He closed his eyes hard, opened them again, and found that the tiger was real, not his illusion. Bai Yuan was desperate. He just wanted to say one thing at this time. Family. Who understands? Does anyone know what it feels like to wake up in the wild and find a tiger sleeping next to you? And the tiger's hand is still on your body, you can't run away even if you want to. At this moment, Bai Yuan's body suddenly stiffened. He felt something unspeakable. Bai Yuan only felt his anus tighten. Damn! This is a male tiger. But it seems to be wrong. Bai Yuan turned his head stiffly and looked at the big tiger next to him. He found that it was still sleeping. He relaxed a little, but he couldn't help trembling in his heart. What should he do if this big tiger has any ideas about him? Now his mind is full of thoughts of whether to obey or not. This idea even overwhelms the idea that he might be eaten by the tiger. Bai Yuan dared not move at this time. Countless thoughts emerged in his mind. I don't know how long it took. Cheng Yan slept enough, yawned and opened his eyes. After opening his eyes, I saw that the young man seemed to be still sleeping. No way? Still sleeping after sleeping for so long? It was still dark now, and the sun hadn't come out yet. Cheng Yan didn't know how long he slept, but when he went to bed last night, it wasn't too late, and fell asleep not long after dark. This young man should have slept earlier than him, so he shouldn't have woken up later than him, right? Cheng Yan noticed something was wrong, and after thinking about it, he tried to press with his tiger paw. With his current weight, the weight of a tiger paw is not light. Even if it is just pressing, it is very heavy for a person. Cheng Yan obviously noticed that the young man frowned, but did not open his eyes. Cheng Yan reacted immediately and realized that the guy in front of him was pretending to sleep. Maybe he had woken up a long time ago, but he pretended not to wake up because he saw him. This made Cheng Yan a little regretful, because he didn't see the face of this person when he saw him, which was probably very good. But you are pretending to sleep, right? You don't want to get up, right? Cheng Yan couldn't help but reveal a wicked smile. Well, what bad intentions can a big tiger have? Cheng Yan put both of his paws on Bai Yuan's body. One of his paws was already very heavy, and now another one was added. Bai Yuan instantly felt as if he was pressed on his chest by something weighing dozens of kilograms, and he was almost suffocating. Then he found that the big tiger's 2 feet were also pressing on him. Bai Yuan had no choice. If he didn't get away, he would probably be crushed to death. If the big tiger turned over in its sleep and pressed on him, he would probably be crushed to death without waiting for anything else. An adult tiger weighs hundreds of kilograms. The big tiger in front of him is so fat and so big, it is estimated that it may weigh more than 1,000 kilograms. Bai Yuan could only open his eyes and try to move his body, but as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw that the big tiger had woken up and was still staring at him. This made him pause and dared not move. Bai Yuan could clearly hear the tiger's breathing at this time, and his mind was blank now. Although he had discovered this tiger before, it was sleeping at that time. Now it was awake and staring at him. The pressure was beyond words. Chapter 131. Squeak. Cheng Yan exhaled a breath from his nose, and saw that the young man in front of him was no longer pretending to sleep. His expression just now made Cheng Yan feel interesting. He was not going to tease him anymore, so he stood up and left the shelter. Bai Yuan sat up and looked at the big white tiger in front of him, feeling a little distressed. He didn't know what to do now. What if he made other moves and caused the big tiger to misunderstand and attack him? Bai Yuan quickly thought of the video he had watched before. The big tiger in it seemed to like barbecue and grilled squid. He didn't have tools for grilled squid now, but he could grill meat for the big tiger. But the only problem now was how to get a piece of meat. Soon, Bai Yuan remembered the trap he set yesterday, and he didn't know if he caught anything. But looking at the big tiger in front of him, Bai Yuan didn't dare to make any big moves. He could only get up slowly, for fear of angering the big tiger. Slowly reaching the outside of the shelter, Bai Yuan tried to walk to the side, but found that the big tiger didn't seem to pay attention to him, so he got a little bolder and started to walk to the place where the trap was set yesterday. However, after walking a distance, Bai Yuan looked back and found that the tiger was still there, with no intention of moving, and his heart immediately became active. Go to the trap to see if there are any animals and then go back to make barbecue for the tiger? Don't joke. What he wants to do most now is to get away from this tiger and go down the mountain and return to the crowd. After walking a distance, Bai Yuan looked back and found that he could no longer see the shelter, and the tiger was no longer visible, so he ran away immediately. As a result, just after running a short distance, a tiger roar came over. Roar. Bai Yuan was so frightened by the tiger roar that his movements were deformed, and his left foot tripped himself and fell directly to the ground. Damn! Dead leg! Get up and run! Bai Yuan felt his legs were out of control and wanted to take out a knife to chop it. He failed at the critical moment. But soon, Bai Yuan had no other ideas. The big white tiger had already come over. Cheng Yan looked at Bai Yuan sitting on the ground with a smile on his face. Little brother, I saw all your actions. You want to run, right? I deliberately waited for you to run away and came to find you. You didn't expect it. Desperate. Looking at the big tiger approaching with a big mouth and showing those huge fangs, Bai Yuan's face turned pale and he said tremblingly. Brother. I went to find food for you. I didn't run away. Cheng Yan didn't move, just stayed a few meters away and looked at Bai Yuan quietly. Seeing that the big tiger had no intention of attacking, Bai Yuan stood up tremblingly, wanting to go to the location of the trap to show the big tiger that he really wanted to catch prey. Fortunately, the direction he just ran was not far from the place where the trap was set, and Bai Yuan arrived not long after walking. After arriving here, Bai Yuan was surprised to find that the trap was actually triggered, which meant that there was really an animal inside. Bai Yuan hurriedly and carefully removed the lid, ready to grab the animal inside at any time. But when he removed the lid, Bai Yuan found that there was no animal inside, only a hole. After taking a closer look at the hole, Bai Yuan found that there was a rabbit inside. At this time, the rabbit was digging a hole, which was already 30 to 40 centimeters deep. But unfortunately, this distance was not enough for it to be safe, and Bai Yuan directly reached out and grabbed the rabbit. Holding the rabbit's ears, Bai Yuan brought the rabbit to Cheng Yan. "Brother! Do you want to eat it?" Cheng Yan glanced at the rabbit and moved his eyes away with a little disgust. Bai Yuan was a little confused, and then wondered if the big tiger wanted to eat the roasted rabbit he had prepared. So he carried the rabbit back to the shelter. After arriving at the shelter, Bai Yuan began to get busy. As an outdoor anchor, he had recorded survival in the wild more than once, so killing a rabbit was no problem for him. He took out a knife from his bag and killed the rabbit neatly. Then he took out a lighter from his bag, got some dry wood, and prepared to make a fire. Of course, you can't make a fire in Chenbai Mountain. As an anchor, Bai Yuan also knew this situation, but he was forced to do it at this time. If he could still go back alive, he would definitely cut this part out. Cheng Yan was a little confused watching from the side. Yesterday, this young man survived, and he didn't use any other tools except a knife. Why did he take out a lighter and water from his bag today? Oh my god, this young man also brought some supplies, right? After waiting for a long time, Bai Yuan finally finished everything, lit the fire, and put the processed rabbit was roasted on a wooden stick. As a survival anchor, Bai Yuan also knows how to roast rabbits, but he can only make sure that they are cooked. As for whether they are delicious or not, he is a survivor, so he should not pursue the taste at this moment. Cheng Yan looked at the roasted rabbit in front of him and sniffed it. There was no strange smell. He tried to take a bite, chewed it a few times, and spit it out. It doesn't taste good. If it was raw, Cheng Yan wouldn't think there was any problem. If it was cooked well and made delicious, he could accept it. But this one was just roasted, but there was no seasoning, so it didn't taste very good. After looking at Bai Yuan with disdain, Cheng Yan turned around and left. He wanted to find a place to get meat from the system space to eat. After walking for a long distance, Cheng Yan felt that it should be about the same here, so he stopped and took out a piece of meat to eat. After eating and drinking, Cheng Yan took a look at the system punch-in task. His punch-in task had been refreshed a long time ago, but he had never checked it before. Now he checked and found that the punch-in location was 10 kilometers away. Cheng Yan looked at the direction where Bai Yuan was. Okay, it seems that the fate ends here. Bai Yuan waited for a long time and found that the big white tiger had not come back. He was a little hesitant whether the big tiger had left and would not come back, but thinking of the result that he was yelled at when he was about to run, he finally decided to wait for a while. As a result, after waiting for several hours, the big white tiger did not come back. Bai Yuan was a little hesitant whether to go down the mountain. Although he only recorded the wilderness survival for 2 days this time, he met a big white tiger. It was enough to have this explosive point. It would definitely be a hit if it was released. Thinking of this, Bai Yuan took action directly, packed up his things, and then went down the mountain immediately. After a few hours, when he stepped into the village at the foot of the mountain, Bai Yuan finally felt relieved. Chapter 132. After Bai Yuan returned to where he lived, he began to edit the video he had recorded. As a result, he found from the video that the big white tiger seemed to have been eyeing him for a long time, at least the big white tiger seemed to be very familiar with him. Not long after he fell asleep at night, the tiger had already come over, and the tiger seemed to have discovered the device for recording the video, and took a look at the device, and then went into the shelter. After everything was edited, it was a long time later, and Bai Yuan posted the edited video on the short video platform. As soon as the video was published, it immediately attracted a lot of people to watch, because not long after the beginning of the video, the big white tiger in the camp that he had taken a fancy to came. Seeing a wild Siberian tiger in the wild would attract a lot of people to watch, especially this white Siberian tiger is very popular on the internet, and even many fans like this big tiger. I also want to have a tiger to warm my bed when I sleep at night. The host is so lucky. He met a wild big tiger in the wild and came back alive. Big white doesn't hurt people. It ran to the scenic spot to eat barbecue and squid before, and it didn't hurt anyone even though there were so many people there. Stop joking. If you really meet one, look at the host's appearance. Who can be calm and at ease? This is not one of those tigers in the zoo. This is a real wild Siberian tiger. Even with this size, it's not an exaggeration to say that it is the king of tigers. Go and see it. Bai Yuan's video went viral, and the number of views and likes far exceeded his previous videos. Cheng Yan didn't know anything about this. He was now strolling in the mountains and forests to the check-in location. It didn't take Cheng Yan too much time to stroll over the 10-kilometer distance. When he arrived at the check-in location, Cheng Yan found that the check-in location this time was next to a stream. Cheng Yan was quite satisfied with the check-in location this time, so he could take a bath and swim in the stream after checking in. During the 45-minute check-in time, Cheng Yan was staring at the various fish swimming in the stream while waiting for the check-in countdown. Hey? What sound? Cheng Yan's keen ears suddenly heard some sounds, which instantly attracted his attention. This sound was not made by animals, but like the sound of a child crying. After looking at the check-in countdown, there was still half an hour left. Cheng Yan hesitated and decided to wait until the check-in was finished. Now he was in this deep mountain forest, so there would not be a child crying suddenly. If there was, there must be an adult. Otherwise, it would be impossible for a child to come here and be safe and sound. Cheng Yan listened to the crying of children from time to time while waiting for the check-in time to end. At first, Cheng Yan was a little anxious, thinking that there was really a child crying, but as time passed, Cheng Yan was not anxious anymore. This child had been crying for almost half an hour, and his voice was still full of energy. It didn't seem like he was in danger. When the clock-in time was over, Cheng Yan didn't even check the reward, and walked directly in the direction of the sound. What made Cheng Yan a little confused was that he walked for a long time and didn't find any trace of people, only the crying of children from time to time. When he came to the place where the sound came from, Cheng Yan looked around and didn't find any children, but he was sure that he didn't hear it wrong, the sound did come from this side. When the sound appeared again, Cheng Yan locked the target, the sound came from the stream. Stream? Cheng Yan had a question mark on his forehead. There is a child in the water? What's going on? Cheng Yan walked carefully to the edge of the stream, staring at the stream carefully, not missing a single movement. Soon, Cheng Yan locked the target. Hey! This is a giant salamander? Cheng Yan was surprised when he saw the thing in the stream. He didn't expect to see a giant salamander here. No wonder he heard the child's voice. The sound made by the giant salamander really sounds like a child's cry, so it is called a giant salamander. The scientific name of the giant salamander is Chinese giant salamander, which is a national second-level protection. However, only wild giant salamanders are national second-level protection. It is very difficult for giant salamanders in the wild to survive. They must live in streams or water sources with very good water quality. Now the environment of the water source is getting worse and worse. Except for some deep mountains and old forests, it is difficult to see wild giant salamanders. The reason why wild giant salamanders are only second-level protected is because giant salamanders can also be farmed. The meat of giant salamanders is very good and tastes very good. Many people eat them. Therefore, there are people who farm giant salamanders. Although farmed giant salamanders are better than eats not wild, but it's not much different. And the price is relatively acceptable, only more than 10 to dozens of yuan per kilogram. Compared with the top fish in the sea, the price is really cheap, and ordinary workers can accept it occasionally. The giant salamander in front of Cheng Yan is obviously wild. This giant salamander is not small, it is more than 1 meter long, which is enough to show that this giant salamander has lived in this area for a long time. The lifespan of giant salamanders is very long, generally several decades, which is similar to that of humans, but if the living environment is good and the food is sufficient, it can even live for hundreds of years. There was once a giant salamander that lived to the age of 130. This giant salamander, which is more than 1 meter long, may be several decades old. Cheng Yan looked at the giant salamander in front of him and considered whether to try eating a giant salamander. He had never eaten a giant salamander before and wanted to taste it. Roar! Roar! Just when Cheng Yan was about to go into the water to catch the giant salamander, two roars suddenly came from behind him. This sound attracted Cheng Yan's attention, because these two roars were the voices of tigers, and they belonged to two tigers. Is this a tiger stepping into the territory of other tigers? It sounds like it is not far from here. Cheng Yan wanted to watch two big tigers fight. Turning his head to look at the stream, the giant salamander had disappeared. Cheng Yan knew that it had heard the noise and hid in the cave. The giant salamander is very slow. In such a short time, it must not swim far. If it can disappear, it can only hide in a nearby cave. Well, since you are hiding, you are lucky. Cheng Yan gave up eating the giant salamander and turned to run to the place where the tiger roar came from. He was going to watch a show. Chapter 133. Cheng Yan walked quickly in the direction of the sound, and walked a kilometer before he came to the location where the two tigers made the sound. The range of tiger roars is very wide, and there is no problem for them to spread to a kilometer away. When Cheng Yan arrived here, the two Siberian tigers had already started fighting, and the movement was quite loud. Except for the two big tigers, no other animals dared to stay around and ran away long ago. Just one big tiger is enough to intimidate all the animals in its territory, let alone two now. The tiger's territory is very large, and the tiger will spend a lot of time patrolling the territory every day. When other tigers enter the territory, they often cause fights. Because the territory of a tiger can generally only support one tiger. If there is another tiger, the other animals in the territory will not be enough for them to eat. The reason why many tigers can live together in the zoo is that there is enough food, and they can eat enough food every day without hunting. In this situation, tigers prefer to sleep to kill time. If there is no conflict, who has time to fight with other tigers? And wild tigers and tigers in zoos can be regarded as two species, even if they are both Siberian tigers. Siberian tigers in zoos may look large and intimidating, but many of them have lived in zoos since childhood. Their various hunting abilities have long been weakened. But Siberian tigers in the wild are different. They do not have fixed food to feed, and they must hunt by themselves. And various animals in the wild have always been cunning and will run away at the slightest sign of trouble. Even a hare is very difficult to catch. Wild tigers must constantly practice their hunting abilities and various other skills, otherwise they will not be able to survive in the wild. These two wild Siberian tigers are extremely proficient in various fighting skills and hunting abilities, and they are still 2 meters and 78 meters in size without their tails. This size is already very outstanding for wild Siberian tigers. Cheng Yan was amazed by the various fighting skills of the two tigers. Although he had fought with the giant tiger before, he relied on cheating and crushed it directly. The giant tiger did not show too many skills. Now the two tigers are evenly matched in size, and various fighting skills are fully displayed. Although Cheng Yan has accepted the muscle memory of his body and has gradually mastered some skills during this period, his original body is just a tiger that has not reached its peak. His original body does not know as much as the two tigers in front of him. At this time, Cheng Yan concealed his body and did not get too close to avoid being seen by the two tigers. They stopped fighting. After all, Cheng Yan's size is more than one circle larger than the two Siberian tigers, and he looks very oppressive. After a fight, one tiger was finally defeated and ran away with injuries. The winning tiger did not want to let it go and chased after it. Cheng Yan watched a free tiger fight and felt very satisfied. He learned a lot of skills. Next time, if he fights with other tigers, he can also try these skills. The two tigers left. Cheng Yan thought about it and didn't stop. He chose a random direction and left here. While strolling on the road, Cheng Yan remembered that he hadn't checked the rewards for today's punch-in task. He had been looking for giant salamanders before, and ran over to watch the tigers fight after finding them. Before he had time to check the rewards along the way, Cheng Yan opened the system and checked it. As expected, the rewards were still the same. These rewards now were not new at all. Cheng Yan couldn't help complaining in his heart. Although the attribute points were not bad, he had been a tiger for more than half a year, and he had received a lot of attribute point rewards. After strolling in the mountains and forests for a long time, Cheng Yan didn't know where he was. Anyway, he felt that the trees were beginning to become fewer. Seeing that it was getting dark, Cheng Yan found a place to rest. There were too few trees and bushes here. The place Cheng Yan finally found was just a relatively open space. Cheng Yan didn't dislike it and just lay on the ground and fell asleep. When the sun rose, Cheng Yan had already gotten up and walked for a while, but the more he walked here, the more he felt that this was not the Qinbei mountain range. He seemed to have walked out of Qinbei mountain. He glanced at the location of the punch-in task. It was not too far, but the direction seemed to ask him to continue walking like this, not back to Qinbei mountain. After taking a look at the sparse trees around him, Cheng Yan thought for a while and felt it shouldn't be a big deal. There are few trees, so there shouldn't be anyone running here. He walked slowly to the check-in location. There was nothing to pay attention to around, so Cheng Yan started to check in directly. The check-in time was 45 minutes. Cheng Yan looked at the time and felt no fluctuation in his heart. There were only a few rewards for this time. No matter which one, it was pretty good, but it didn't make him excited. He took a nap at the check-in location, waiting for the end of the check-in time. The 45 minutes passed quickly, and the reward resistance +1, Cheng Yan just glanced at it and didn't care. After checking in, Cheng Yan walked slowly in this sparse woods, and found that not only were there few trees here, but there were not many animals. He had been walking for so long, not to mention predators and other larger animals, he only saw a few hares. After walking slowly for a distance, Cheng Yan suddenly smelled a bloody smell. Are there still predators here? Cheng Yan walked towards the direction where the bloody smell came from with a hint of curiosity. He approached in secret, fearing that he would scare away the predator after he showed up. This was the first predator he had discovered after wandering around for so long, and Cheng Yan was curious about what kind of animal would hunt in such a place with scarce resources. Cheng Yan was a little surprised when he came to the place where the bloody smell was emitted. There is a cave here, and the bloody smell came from inside. Black bear? No way, there are only some rabbits here, no other animals, and even fruits are not many. Even if black bears are omnivorous animals and can eat tree fruits and the like, the resources here are not enough to feed a black bear. Even if Cheng Yan did not enter the cave, the smell he emitted was enough to attract the attention of the animals in the cave. Especially Cheng Yan's smell belongs to the top predator. Chapter 134. Cheng Yan showed a surprised expression when he came to the cave entrance, because after coming here, in addition to the smell of blood, he also smelled the smell he had smelled before. The predator in the cave gave a warning growl. Roar! Like the sound of a 12-cylinder engine, it came from the cave. The predator in the cave was a tiger. And it was one that Cheng Yan had seen. The one that lost in the fight between the two big tigers he saw yesterday. The tiger was chased for a long distance yesterday, and ran out of the tiger's territory before it successfully escaped. Although the resources here are not very good, it can allow the tiger to recover well because there are no other predators. In the wild, a normal Siberian tiger is of course at the top of the food chain. But if it is injured, and the injury is not light, then you have to be careful. Wolves that usually run away when they see a tiger, as well as leopards and black bears, are predators. Once they find a tiger that is seriously injured, they will not run away, and may even want to kill the injured tiger. Sometimes, killing an injured tiger is more important to them than hunting. Because if the territory of predators such as wolves or black bears is in a state of intersection or overlap with that of the tiger, then they are competitors. Because there are only so many resources in the territory, if a predator kills a herbivore, then other predators will have one less prey, and tigers are the strongest predators in the mountains and forests. A tiger will kill a large number of prey, and other predators can only eat what the tiger leaves. Being able to kill a tiger is enough for other predators in the territory to enjoy a very comfortable life. Therefore, this seriously injured tiger had to hide in this place where there are no resources and other predators dislike it. Cheng Yan's arrival made the tiger very nervous, especially when Cheng Yan walked into the cave and saw his size. The tiger's warning growl was accompanied by a hint of despair. Cheng Yan looked at the tiger in front of him and couldn't help shaking his head. In the wild, tigers usually fight for territory. If they lose, it's okay if they are not injured. Once they are injured, it's basically the prelude to death. The same is true for this tiger at this time. It has scratches and bites on its body. Although some wounds are no longer bleeding, the bloody smell is enough to make it more difficult to hunt. The key is that there is a long scratch on its hind legs, which will greatly affect its speed and movement, making it more difficult to hunt. The tiger is hiding in the cave now, actually waiting for death to come. It may take a lot of time for it to recover from the wound. During this period, it cannot hunt. Recovery requires a lot of energy. Without a food source, it will only consume the energy stored in the body. After it is consumed, the tiger will be almost dead. Looking at the big tiger in front of him, Cheng Yan thought about it and decided not to disturb it. Let it recover here. There are not many Siberian tigers. A Siberian tiger of this size needs a lot of resources to grow to this extent. Cheng Yan took out a large piece of meat and a bucket of water, piled them all in the cave, and walked out. Cheng Yan walked out of the cave and looked back. There was enough food. The tiger should be able to survive this period, provided that it would not encounter other predators, but it only needs to survive the first few days. When the tiger has enough food, its self-healing ability is very fast. It can recover significantly in a few days. After surviving the first few days, it will also have the ability to resist if it encounters some predators. As long as it has the ability to resist, those predators will be concerned and dare not provoke easily. Cheng Yan left here and walked in the direction he had been heading. As he walked far enough, the sparse trees began to become dense again. Is this a new forest? Cheng Yan looked at the environment in front of him and found that many of the vegetation were different from those in Qinbei Mountain. After entering this forest, Cheng Yan began to wander around in this new forest, preparing to find out the environmental conditions in this forest. After strolling for a few hours, Cheng Yan found that this forest was not big, at least much smaller than Qinbei Mountain, with only a few small hills in a forest. There were also fewer animals in it, most of which were common, such as hares, lynxes, etc. In this forest, lynxes are already the strongest predators, and powerful predators such as leopards and black bears are also very powerful. Predators, Cheng Yan didn't see any. But now that Cheng Yan is here, he is the strongest predator in this forest. It's a pity that he has so much meat in the system space, so he doesn't need to hunt. It just so happens that Cheng Yan's arrival will not have much impact on the ecological environment of this forest. When he first came, the small animals here might be scared to tremble, and after Cheng Yan left, they can resume their normal life. In any forest, if there is one more tiger, it will greatly affect the ecological environment. If a tiger goes crazy and only hunts but doesn't eat, it will cause the collapse of the local ecology. Just like the tigress that Cheng Yan saw in the Daxing Mountains before. At that time, the tigress thought that the little tiger ran away because it was hunted by a predator, so she went crazy and killed any animal she saw. All the animals in its territory were scared away. After this hunting, that territory will not return to its previous state without a period of development. The tigress will probably have to choose to find other territories in the end, because the other animals in that territory are not enough to feed the tigress and the cubs. The same is true for the forest where Cheng Yan is now. The forest is not very big, and most of the animals are small. Lynx is the most powerful predator here. In this case, a tiger suddenly came. If this tiger still wants to hunt, then the impact on the ecology will be too great. At that time, the lynx may move overnight. After strolling in the forest and scaring many small animals, Cheng Yan looked at the gradually darkening sky and lay down in the forest to rest. He was not afraid that other animals would think that he would block the way if he lay down here with such a big body. Chapter 135. Cheng Yan slept in the forest, and walked out of the forest the next day after waking up. This place is too small. For a tiger, this place is not qualified to be its territory. For Cheng Yan, this place can only be regarded as a place to sleep. After walking out of the forest, Cheng Yan found that he had come to the edge of a city again. The vehicles on the road on the edge of the forest were speeding at a speed of at least 100. This is clearly a highway. And Cheng Yan could see that a few kilometers ahead along this road was a city, and this city was his destination for today's check-in. Looking at the city in the distance, Cheng Yan thought about it, turned back to the forest, and after hiding in it and becoming smaller, Cheng Yan continued to move forward. Walking on the edge of the highway, Cheng Yan could feel the feeling of a car speeding past him from time to time. His current size was the size of a kitten. If it weren't for his physique here, Cheng Yan probably wouldn't dare to walk here. In the past, Cheng Yan often saw the bodies of various small animals on the highway. They were all crushed by the cars passing by at high speed. With the cars traveling at such high speed, even an adult tiger would not be able to withstand a collision here. Although there are videos of tigers being hit by cars but nothing happened, that is because the speed of the car is not fast. If it is on the highway, it will hit at a speed of more than 100. No matter how powerful the tiger is, it will probably be seriously injured, and of course the car will not be much better. After walking for a while, Cheng Yan found that there seemed to be a traffic jam ahead, and rows of cars were parked on the highway. Mimi! Don't go, Mimi! Come here! Eat cans! In a parked car, a young man in his 20s opened the window and stretched his head to call the little white cat in front of him. But he shouted several times, and the little white cat seemed not to hear him and ignored him. Cheng Yan was walking slowly, wagging his tail. Of course, he heard someone calling Mimi, but he didn't want to pay any attention to it. Meow! I am a tiger. If you call me Mimi again, I will show my original size and scare you to death. As for cans, for him, they are completely nutritious. Isn't it delicious to eat pure meat rich in protein, such as beef and venison? Why eat cans? However, as the traffic jam in front became more and more serious, many people were very bored sitting in the car, and even many people got off the car to have a cigarette. Next to a car in front, there were two children and an adult stretching beside the car, as if they had been driving for a long time and wanted to get off and move around. Cheng Yan looked at the two children and one adult in front, and without stopping, he was ready to walk over. But one of the little boys suddenly found a kitten. He had been sitting in the car for a long time, and he was so bored that he didn't want the kitten to leave. The little boy stopped in front of Cheng Yan and stretched out his hand to grab him, but Cheng Yan dodged him nimbly. After leaving the little boy, Cheng Yan walked slowly at the same speed as before, but the little boy behind him was not happy. He ran over and grabbed Cheng Yan's tail. Cheng Yan turned his head and looked at the little boy behind him, a little impatient. He didn't want to play with this little boy now. After dodging the hand that wanted to pull his beard, Cheng Yan looked at the adult. The adult was looking at this side at this time, without any intention of stopping, and even lit a cigarette to watch the show. This made Cheng Yan a little annoyed. Don't want to care, right? I'll take care of it for you. Cheng Yan grabbed two claws without hesitation. Even though he didn't use much force, his claws were very sharp. The clothes on his body were directly cut, and several scars appeared on the little boy's body. The pain made the little boy start crying. The adult who was smoking hurried over and kicked Cheng Yan directly. Cheng Yan dodged the blow with a backward jump, and looked at the adult in front of him fiercely. Oh, you didn't want to care just now, but now you are going to make trouble for me? I give you face. Cheng Yan jumped and rushed straight to the middle-aged man. He jumped in front of him and directly used two claws, then kicked the middle-aged man to the ground with a backward kick. Fuck! Am I hallucinating because of the traffic jam? A cat kicked someone down. A young man who was just attracted by the crying of a child here was stunned. Such a small cat kicked an adult to the ground with one kick. This is the first time he has seen such a situation. After landing steadily, Cheng Yan turned his head to look at the middle-aged man who fell to the ground and the little boy who was crying loudly, and grinned. Breath. This hissing sound scared the little girl next to him, and she couldn't help crying. Ignoring these people, Cheng Yan walked forward directly. There were also some people in front of him who were moving under the car. They had just seen what happened here. At this time, seeing Cheng Yan, the little cat, walking over, they all hid a little. But no one wanted to be scratched by a cat, and this cat looked fierce. If it weren't for its small size and the fact that wild tiger cubs are usually accompanied by mother tigers, they would have thought it was a tiger. Now no one was blocking the way. Cheng Yan walked smoothly and arrived at the check-in location without spending too much time. This time the check-in location was not in the city, but it was also in the suburbs. This time the check-in location was under an abandoned building. It's not right to say abandoned. Cheng Yan looked at the building in front of him and was a little confused. The building seemed to be almost repaired, but there was no one. There didn't seem to be many people around. Some places were still rice fields, but there were several buildings here, but they all looked abandoned. Although he was puzzled, Cheng Yan only looked at it for a few times and then stopped paying attention. The most important thing for him now was to check in. It took Cheng Yan 10 minutes to complete the check-in task. He looked at the power of faith and found that there were 200 or 300 more. Cheng Yan also refreshed the task and started to check in again. After refreshing twice in a row, Cheng Yan checked in 3 times in total today. He checked the rewards, food, drinks and snacks. None of the 3 check-ins were good things, not even a single attribute point. After taking a look at the abandoned building here, Cheng Yan was curious and prepared to walk around here. After entering the abandoned building, Cheng Yan found that this building did not seem to be an abandoned building, because the building did not seem to have been built long ago, no more than 2 years at most. And this building seemed to be a residential building, and an elevator shaft was built, but it was obvious that there was no elevator installed in this building. Chapter 136. The abandoned buildings here are all more than 20 stories high. Cheng Yan visited the first 2 buildings. There was nothing else except some discarded garbage. However, Cheng Yan made an unexpected discovery when he visited the 3rd building. On the 7th floor of the 3rd abandoned building, Cheng Yan was a little stunned when he saw the wooden bed in front of him. This is a bed made of 7 or 8 wooden boards. It is called a bed because it is padded with some tattered clothes and other things. In addition to this bed, Cheng Yan also found a school bag and a stool here. 2 wooden stools, one large and one small, with books on the large stool. Is there anyone living here? And there is a child? Cheng Yan's mind was full of question marks. Who would live in such an abandoned building? If this building was repaired, it would be fine, but this building was just built, and it was not decorated at all. It was all cement floors and cement walls, and there was no electricity at night. Without lights, it must be invisible. Someone actually lives in this building. Cheng Yan was very curious about the people who lived here, so he decided to stroll around here. People who could live here would definitely return here before dark, because after dark, you couldn't see the situation here clearly. There was no light in this place. If you want to see the surroundings clearly, you can only rely on the moonlight at night. This is still an abandoned building. The ground is very messy, and there are many stairs that are not covered. It is very dangerous to walk up the stairs at night. Cheng Yan curiously looked upstairs and the surrounding buildings. There were no signs of people living in other places. Only this building was inhabited. After finding that there were no other special places, Cheng Yan went downstairs and wandered around here. I don't know why these buildings were built here. There are some rice fields around, and even 200 or 300 meters away from the road outside. Cheng Yan strolled around the fields. After he became a tiger, he hadn't played by the rice fields. Now looking at the surrounding fields from the perspective of a kitten, it feels quite novel. After strolling for a while, Cheng Yan suddenly found someone coming. 2 boys, one about 8 or 9 years old, and the other about 17 or 18 years old, walked straight to the abandoned building here from outside. Are these 2 people living in the building? Cheng Yan followed all the way behind him, which means that he is still the size of a kitten. If he changes back to his original size and is seen by these 2 little guys, they will probably be scared to death. The 2 little boys walked directly to the 3rd abandoned building, which made Cheng Yan sure that they were the people living there. Cheng Yan followed slowly behind, and when Cheng Yan climbed to the 7th floor, he found that the little boy was already sitting on a stool reading a book, and the older boy was lying on the wooden bed. After watching for a while, Cheng Yan felt bored. The 2 people didn't talk at all, but now Cheng Yan was curious about why the 2 people lived here, so he didn't want to leave. 2 boys, one big and one small, lived in such a place, and seemed to have gotten used to it, which meant that the 2 people were wanderers. But Cheng Yan was very surprised. The 2 men were very different in age. The older one might have grown up. If they were brothers, where were their families? Even if something happened at home, they had a foundation, so it shouldn't have turned out like this. But if the older boy and the younger one were not brothers, such a young child would have to rely on the older boy to raise him. Even if he didn't send the child to school, he would need a lot of money for food and drink every day. But the older boy didn't look like he had any money, otherwise they wouldn't have lived in such a place, and they might not even have a job. Having a job, even if it was a very low-paying one, would make their lives better. I'll go get some food. Don't run around here, okay? Cheng Yan, who was taking a nap, suddenly heard a voice. He got up and saw that the older boy had gotten up and was explaining things to the younger one. The little boy nodded, indicating that he understood. Seeing this, the older boy turned around and prepared to go out. Cheng Yan hid himself quickly. He decided to follow the boy out to see what he was doing. As the boy walked out of the abandoned building and walked a few hundred meters to the road, Cheng Yan found that the boy was walking along the road very familiarly. If there were forks on the road, he knew where to turn and where to go straight. It seemed that the boy had been here for a while. Following the boy, he soon arrived at a small town, which was a short distance from the city. It was very close, even in the city, but still in the suburbs. These towns had not been developed yet, so there were still some low buildings. When Cheng Yan saw what the big boy was doing, he was shocked. Is he stealing? Are these 2 boys thieves? A gang of thieves? Chapter 137. Cheng Yan was stunned to see the boy in front of him passing by a stall at a very fast speed, and then got 3 steamed buns. Even the boss didn't seem to notice, and was still chatting with the boss of the stall next to him as if nothing had happened. After getting the steamed buns, the boy walked back directly, as if he had no intention of stealing other things. Strange. This boy is a thief, why did he only steal steamed buns? Isn't it better to steal money? Steamed buns are only worth a few dollars. 3 big steamed buns for 5 yuan are too expensive for a hipster. How can stealing tens or hundreds of yuan be comparable to dozens of big steamed buns? Cheng Yan looked at the boy who turned around and left with a little doubt, and at the same time, he felt that the boy didn't seem to be a member of the thief gang. Generally, such thief gangs are targeting valuable things, such as mobile phones or cash. That is to say, nowadays, most people rarely use cash. Except for some elderly people who cannot use mobile payment, other people basically use mobile payment, so thieves basically target mobile phones. They may not be interested in ordinary mobile phones, but they have to look at expensive ones. Although mobile phones have positioning, they also have places to sell stolen goods. There are some small mobile phone stores that will buy these mobile phones at very low prices. Ordinary thieves will sell their stolen mobile phones in these places, and if they commit crimes in gangs, they have fixed channels to sell these mobile phones. As for the thieves who steal food, steamed buns, etc., they don't look like members of the thief gangs at all, because there is no need. For these thieves, if they steal a few dollars of things, they will eat them by themselves, and they can't sell them. Even if they sell them, they are not worth much. They also risk being discovered and beaten. Why do they steal them? At this time, the conversation at the stall next to them attracted Cheng Yan's attention. That kid is here again. Let's get him and his brother some food. They are so pitiful, alas. Cheng Yan turned around and saw that 2 stall owners, one selling fruit and the other selling big fruit, were talking, and they were still looking at the big boy. What's going on? Did they find out? They found out someone was stealing things but pretended not to see it. Cheng Yan was confused, and then turned around to look at the stall owner selling steamed buns. He found that the stall owner was also looking at the big boy and moving the steamed buns as if nothing had happened. As the stall owner moved the steamed buns, Cheng Yan realized that the stall owner seemed to have deliberately placed the steamed buns in the front, almost out of his stall. Was this deliberately for the big boy to take? Cheng Yan seemed to understand a little bit. The big boy's stealing method had been discovered by others a long time ago, but it seemed that because they knew the situation of the big boy, they did not bother him. Instead, they deliberately made it convenient for the big boy to take it. Cheng Yan walked to the stall selling big fruits, sat down and listened to the chat of the 2 stall owners. He was abandoned by his family when he was 12 or 13 years old. It is not easy for a person to live to such an old age. Who said it was not? The key is that his family did not register him when he was born. Now that he is an adult, it is difficult for him to get an ID card. With an ID card, he can at least go to work and earn money. Now that he has no ID card, even if someone wants to hire him, they dare not. He also picked up a younger brother to raise. Those irresponsible parents are really damned. If they don't want children, they shouldn't have them. If they don't raise them after giving birth, let them fend for themselves. It's really ridiculous. You are the ones who spoiled him by stealing things. If you had told him a few times after discovering it, he wouldn't have been stealing things to eat for so many years. A stall owner selling pan-fried buns next to him also interrupted. The stall owner who sold big fruits rolled his eyes. He doesn't have an ID card, so he can't work. If he is found out, he will be fined. If you report him, those people won't care. If you want to care, you can let him work for you, or you can support him. The pan-fried bun stall owner who was criticized also fell silent. His family was not rich, and he had a child in school. How could he support another child? Cheng Yan listened here for a long time and completely understood the situation of the big boy and the little boy. The big boy is not from here. His name is Cheng Xi. When his mother was pregnant with him, it seems that he didn't plan to have him. As a result, he was coaxed into giving birth. As a result, after the birth, the man regretted it and dumped his mother. His mother was so angry that she brought the big boy, who was still a baby at the time, to her house many times, but she was driven out every time. At that time, his mother was not married at all, and she didn't have a job. She played cards every day and wandered around. The child was not registered after he was born, but his mother didn't care about him at all, and finally lived with his grandfather. As a result, when he was 10 years old, his grandfather he passed away, and now no one cares about him at all. But it was good at that time. He was 10 years old and could find ways to support himself. He lived in the small broken house of his grandfather's house and barely made ends meet. As a result, his mother lost a lot of money playing cards and had no money to give, so she set her eyes on his grandfather's house and sold it directly. After the sale, the child stayed with his mother for a few days. As a result, his mother disliked such a big child, and one time she drove the child to this place. Because the child was an illegal resident, after reporting it, he wanted to get an ID card for him, and his family needed to find a way. As a result, after contacting his mother didn't care at all. In the end, there was no choice but to let the child wander here. At that time, the child was thrown here, so many people in the town knew the situation and were relatively tolerant of the child. From time to time, they would give him some food, but that was all they could do. Their family situation did not support them to adopt a little boy. As Cheng Xi got older, when he was 15, he wanted to work and earn money, but he didn't have an ID card and was too young, so no one dared to hire him. Finally, a kind-hearted person in a restaurant hired him and let him work for a while. As a result, the restaurant was reported for hiring child workers. Then the restaurant was fined tens of thousands of yuan, and Cheng Xi had no choice but to live on the streets again. He didn't dare to find a job, fearing that the kind-hearted person would be punished, so he could only rely on stealing food every day to survive. The people in the town here also knew about these things and didn't dare to hire him for help, but they felt sorry for him. They could only get some food and put it next to the stall when they saw him coming, so that he could take it. After Cheng Yan knew this, he thought about his previous life. Although he was a cow and horse, the money he earned from working every day was just enough to make him have enough food and clothing, but it was still much better than this child. Chapter 138. When Cheng Xi was 16, he picked up a child who was only 5 or 6 years old. The child was called Li Cheng and was also abandoned. Cheng Xi took good care of the child because of the similar experience. Otherwise, a 5 or 6-year-old child would not be able to live alone until now. Cheng Xi knew that stealing was not good, even if he had to steal to survive. He never let Li Cheng steal with him. He tried his best to let Li Cheng go to school, but Li Cheng was also an illegal resident. No school here would accept him. Even after accepting Li Cheng, even if the tuition for compulsory education was very low, it was still not something Cheng Xi could afford. In the end, Cheng Xi could only find some books and bring them back for Li Cheng to read by himself. Cheng Xi could also teach Li Cheng reluctantly, because when Cheng Xi lived with his grandfather when he was a child, his grandfather took great pains to send him to elementary school. He studied until the 4th grade and stopped studying after being taken away by his mother. Cheng Xi also knew a lot of words. After hearing these things, Cheng Yan walked quickly towards the abandoned building. He listened here and Cheng Xi had already left here. Although he only walked here once, Cheng Yan could smell the smell he left when he came here, so he would not get lost and soon arrived at the bottom of the abandoned building. Just as he walked over, Cheng Yan found that Cheng Xi hurriedly ran down from the upstairs, shouting the name of the little boy Li Cheng while running. What's the situation? The little boy is missing? Cheng Yan was a little confused. He walked quickly to the 7th floor. Cheng Yan did not see Li Cheng here, and Cheng Yan found that someone seemed to have been here. This wooden bed has been overturned, and in addition to the smell of Li Cheng and Cheng Xi, Cheng Yan also smelled the smell of other people. Cheng Yan had been here before, and he still remembered what smelled here before, and the smell of these people had never been here before. Is someone coming? And there are several people, what are they doing here? To get Li Cheng away? Cheng Yan sniffed the smell and found that these people were indeed mixed with Li Cheng's smell, and the smell was going down. Following the smell all the way downstairs, when Cheng Yan came down, Cheng Xi was still anxiously calling Li Cheng's name. Unfortunately, Cheng Yan's sense of smell already knew that these people seemed to be no longer in this abandoned building, and they seemed to have gone out. Following the smell all the way, Cheng Yan found that when he was outside the highway, the smell became much lighter. Bad. Did they get in the car? Cheng Yan instantly realized that it was not good. Although the smell would remain after driving away, the smell was very light. If it took a longer time, it might dissipate. Cheng Yan immediately quickened his pace and started running, smelling the remaining smell while running. After running for an unknown period of time, when the sky began to darken, Cheng Yan came to a village. The houses in this village are all well built, with small courtyards and a large distance between each other. Each house is separated by a distance of dozens of meters. Looking at the van in front of him, Cheng Yan stepped forward and sniffed carefully to confirm that there was the smell of Li Cheng in the van. However, there was no one in the van at this time. Cheng Yan walked around the van and sniffed the direction they left. Following the smell along the road, Cheng Yan came to the outside of a house in the village, and the smell of Li Cheng was inside. Cheng Yan looked up at the closed gate and the camera on the courtyard wall, and decided to go in temporarily with his current kitten size. With a jump, Cheng Yan directly jumped over the 2-meter-high wall and entered the small courtyard. Cheng Yan came to the door of the house silently, tried to push it, and found that the door was locked. It might not be possible to sneak in from the gate. After taking a few steps back, Cheng Yan looked at the house in front of him and found that there was a balcony on the second floor, and the door of the adjacent room was open. Cheng Yan looked around, found a good position, jumped directly onto the wall, and then jumped from the wall to the balcony on the second floor. As soon as he arrived at the second floor balcony, Cheng Yan heard the movement inside. There were people in the room with the door open. It seemed that 5 or 6 people were eating and chatting. "How is the little boy we brought back today?" "Not bad. I took a look at his appearance. He looks good. I think he can be sold for a good price. What about you? Did you get him?" "It's not that easy. Kids nowadays are very smart. There are adults watching them. How can it be that easy to get him? It's not like the 2 orphans you got. It's not easy to catch them." Cheng Yan listened outside for a while, and soon he found that the people inside seemed to be human traffickers. Li Cheng must have been targeted by them for a few days. They have found out about Cheng Xi and Li Cheng Gong. They know that they are illegal residents and no one else cares about them. Even if they are missing, it will take a long time to find them. Cheng Yan walked to the window of this room and looked inside carefully. 6 people, 5 men and 1 woman, all look about 40 years old. Cheng Yan hesitated. He didn't see Li Cheng in this room. He was probably in another room. He was not sure whether there were only these 6 people in the room, so he decided to find out the situation first. Soon, Cheng Yan waited for the opportunity. After they finished their meal, 4 people left the room. The other 2 people were not paying attention to the balcony at all. They were all looking at their mobile phones. Cheng Yan rushed from the balcony to the stairs leading downstairs. A man in the room was a little confused. He seemed to see a white thing, which disappeared in a flash. "Hey, did you see the white shadow just flashing by?" The middle-aged man next to him didn't even raise his head. "You've drunk too much, where did the white shadow come from?" The man could only look at the corridor of the room with a confused look on his face. After looking for a while, he didn't see anything else, so he didn't take it seriously and started playing with his mobile phone again. After Cheng Yan came downstairs, he found the other 2 people. There were a total of 8 people in the group. The 2 people stayed in a room with 3 little boys, including Li Cheng. However, the 3 children lay motionless on the bed. Even though the 2 people in the room were chatting, they didn't mean to wake up. Cheng Yan took a look at the 3 children and guessed that they might have been knocked unconscious by drugs. Then Cheng Yan checked all the rooms on the first floor. There was no one in the living room now. There were 2 rooms and a kitchen on the first floor. In addition to the room where the 3 children and the other 2 were, there were 2 people living in another room. Cheng Yan estimated that there might be 2 more people in other rooms on the second floor. Chapter 139. Cheng Yan carefully concealed his figure throughout the whole process, and no one noticed that a tiger the size of a kitten had come into the house. After finding out the situation, Cheng Yan first came to the room where Li Cheng and the others were, and after entering the room, Cheng Yan directly took action. Cheng Yan would not hold back against the human traffickers. Even though he was smaller now and could not exert his strength to the maximum, his strength was not something that ordinary people could bear. The key was that Cheng Yan was very agile after becoming smaller. The 2 human traffickers in the room did not understand what was happening at all. They only felt a white shadow flash by, and the 2 felt a pain in their necks, and then they slowly fell down. They could only open their mouths to speak. Cheng Yan used his sharp tiger claws. Although the tiger claws became cat claws after becoming smaller, they were still sharp. Cheng Yan went directly to the carotid arteries of the two people. Just like a sharp knife slashing, the skin on the necks of the two people could not resist Cheng Yan's claws at all. The noise of the two people falling to the ground attracted the attention of the two people in another room on the first floor. They shouted twice, but the two people here could not answer them at all. Therefore, the two people here became alert. They walked out of the room with two knives and came to the living room, ready to come to this room to check the situation, and at the same time, they did not forget to shout loudly to the people upstairs. Cheng Yan changed back to his original size, rushed out of the room, and pounced on the two people in the living room. The two people saw that a little white cat suddenly turned into a big tiger, and they were so frightened that their legs went weak. They dared not move at all, and kept shouting monsters. Cheng Yan slapped them one by one, and the two people could not resist at all. After being slapped, they flew backwards and hit the wall as if they were hit by a car at high speed. At this time, the people upstairs had not come down yet, but they also heard the movement downstairs. They thought something happened and the police came to their door. They had already taken their weapons and were ready to take the little guys downstairs as hostages. As a result, when the four people upstairs saw Cheng Yan in the stairwell, even though they had been human traffickers for so many years, they were still shocked. In the place where they lived, they suddenly saw a big tiger more than 3 meters long, and the big tiger stared at you with fierce eyes. No one could resist it. Several people could not resist Cheng Yan at all. The knives in their hands were like toys. Even if they mustered up the courage to chop Cheng Yan's body, there was no effect, and even the skin was not scratched. One of them saw his companions being killed by the tiger one by one, and he was so scared that he ran to the balcony of the room and prepared to jump down. Cheng Yan rushed over, slapped him, and helped him jump from the second floor, but this time it was like being hit by a car and fell from the second floor to the yard on the first floor. After solving these human traffickers, Cheng Yan began to worry. Before coming here, he found that there was a surveillance camera at the door of this house, although it was only at the main door. He had checked inside the house and there was no surveillance, but the surveillance at the gate should have seen his appearance after he became smaller. If he went out like this, it would be hard to say what happened here. The people who died here were obviously not killed by a kitten. And the way they died, if it was caused by a big tiger, it would be reasonable, but if it was a tiger cub the size of a kitten, no one would believe it. This problem is more troublesome for Cheng Yan. Cheng Yan looked at the appearance around the house and fell into deep thought. Soon, Cheng Yan made a decision. He didn't know when the children downstairs would wake up, so he decided to solve this problem as soon as possible. This surveillance only shoots at the gate. He can jump from the side upstairs to other places, and then run over with his original size, pretending to be an adult tiger breaking into the house and injuring people. In addition, Cheng Yan had appeared here before in a smaller form, so he could be regarded as a little tiger. Then the big tiger came to find the little tiger, smelled the smell of a child here, broke into the house to find the little tiger, and finally killed the people in the room. The only problem with this is that his identity as a tiger is no longer a white tiger. The Siberian tiger that did not hurt people is still a first-level national protection, especially since he is a white tiger. If he hurt people, he probably wouldn't be allowed to go on freely, and maybe a lot of people would be sent out directly to kill him. Cheng Yan hesitated for a while and made a decision. His current abilities can make him live very comfortably. Even if he doesn't have a white body, as long as he is in the mountains, it will not be so easy to find him. Even in the city, as long as he becomes smaller and is occasionally seen by surveillance, no one will notice that a little white cat is a tiger of his size. Big white tiger. The premise is that his ability to grow and shrink is unknown to others. After shrinking, Cheng Yan jumped off the house and ran a distance away. After confirming that there was no surveillance around in the woods, Cheng Yan changed back to his original size and ran towards the small village. When he came to the house where the traffickers were, Cheng Yan looked at the locked door in front of him and slapped it open with a slap. An ordinary tiger has a ton of palm power. With Cheng Yan's size and power, not to mention one lock, even 10 locks would be useless. The slap on the door made a very loud noise. Even though it was dark now, the noise here still attracted the attention of other people in the village. Many people went out to check the situation and then found Cheng Yan's trace. After Cheng Yan came into the house, he deliberately let out a tiger roar. Even though the power of the tiger roar was restrained, this roar was still heard by everyone in the village. Many dogs in people's homes were frightened by the tiger roar and burrowed into their nests with their tails tucked between their legs. Cheng Yan stayed in the house for 10 minutes and then turned and left. He had already accomplished the purpose of coming here. He didn't have to worry about it anymore. Other villagers would definitely choose to call the police after discovering a tiger coming. Even if they found that the tiger had left, they might come to the house to check the situation after confirming that the tiger was no longer here. When people came, they would naturally find several dead human traffickers and 3 children inside. The fact was just as Cheng Yan thought. Half an hour after he left, 2 police cars came and stopped outside the house where the human traffickers were. When they saw the wide open door and the people lying in the yard, they knew it was not good. The tiger had hurt people, which was not a small matter. Chapter 140. When the policemen walked into the house carefully with guns in hand, they found that they had underestimated the tiger's ability to hurt people. This was not a case of hurting people, but a massacre. The man in the yard was like he had jumped from more than 10 floors high, and he fell all over the yard. But this was clearly just a 2-story building, so it was impossible for him to fall like this. The other people in the room were not much better, as if they were hit by a high-speed car. They were stuck to the wall and couldn't get down at all, and even the wall was cracked. These were just ordinary policemen, who were usually busy with petty thefts. When had they ever seen such a scene? Their faces were pale and bloodless. If they hadn't learned a lot of case studies and seen some dead people, they might have vomited at this time. Divide into 3 groups. Xiao Li, the 3 of you go upstairs to check. Xiao Zhao, the 3 of you check on the first floor. Xiao Wang and I will guard the door to prevent the tiger from coming again. A middle-aged policeman seemed to be their captain this time. After taking a general look at the situation in the yard and the living room, he directly arranged their respective divisions of work. Xiao Li and Xiao Zhao each began to check the house according to their own tasks. There are 3 children here. They seem to be alive. Soon, when Xiao Li checked the room on the first floor, he found 3 children on the bed, and they had no scars on their bodies, but they were still in a coma for some unknown reason. In addition to this discovery, the other 3 policemen also found 3 bodies upstairs, which also seemed to have been hit hard and died in a very tragic way. Captain, we checked the whole house. 8 bodies were found, all adults, and 3 children were in an unknown coma. We don't know the situation, but one of the children seems to be the one who went missing in the East District. 3 days ago, someone called the police and said that one of their children was missing. A young policeman in his 20s told the middle-aged policeman about their inspection. Report first, notify the people in the station to come for support. There are too many deaths this time, and we can't handle it. At the same time, notify the nearest hospital and ask them to send people to rescue. The middle-aged policeman took a deep breath and made arrangements calmly. In all these years, this was the first time he encountered so many casualties, and the dead people didn't seem to be good people. A child who had been missing in the East District for 3 days appeared in the West District and was still in a coma. In addition, there were 2 other children who looked young. He suspected that the dead adults might be human traffickers. What happened to the tiger that suddenly appeared? Why did the tiger only kill these human traffickers and not hurt those children? Was there really a tiger? Or did someone find out about the situation here and kill these human traffickers, and blame it all on tiger? The middle-aged policeman fell into deep thought at this time. He felt that this matter had exceeded his expectations. He could not make a judgment and could only report these things. He even felt that not to mention him, even his station could not solve this matter. In the end, it must be reported to the district and the city. Captain, there is a camera at the door. It seems to be turned on. It may record what happened, but there is no camera in the room. The middle-aged policeman's meditation was interrupted, but this is good news. With surveillance, we can know some situations. Check where the surveillance is connected. Is there anyone watching the surveillance in the room? If not, collect the mobile phones and other electronic products in the room. Remember to use evidence bags and hand them in together when the time comes. Let the people above worry about it. When the situation here was reported, the middle-aged policeman and his police station almost set out immediately. 8 people died. This is not a small matter. All those who were still on vacation were called back and came to the front of this house. An ambulance came with them, but after the doctor checked the conditions of several adults, he announced the results of death directly. They had been dead for a while and there was no way to save them. Only the 3 children were fine. After checking, they determined that the 3 children were knocked unconscious by drugs, and the others were fine. The director was relieved after hearing the news. This was the best news so far. One of the young policemen looked at Li Cheng's appearance, hesitated for a moment, raised his hand and said, "Chief, this child seems to be the homeless child who was lost today. What's the situation? Is this child also lost?" The young policeman nodded, "Yes, during dinner tonight, a young man came to the police and said that his brother the young man is Cheng Xi, and the child is Li Cheng." Cheng Xi? The child abandoned by his family. The director was still a little confused. He didn't know who Cheng Xi was, but many of the police officers who came this time knew him. Cheng Xi had been here for 8 years, and the director had just been transferred here for 2 years, and he didn't know what was going on. However, some of these police officers had been working here for nearly 20 years, and they were familiar with the surrounding situation, so they knew who it was when they heard the name. It was that child. "We sent people to check where he lived and confirmed that his brother Li Cheng was forcibly taken away by someone, but because there was no surveillance there and there were few surveillance cameras on the road, we couldn't know who took him away for the time being, so we asked Cheng Xi to go back and wait for news." The middle-aged policeman looked at Li Cheng and said to the director, "Director, in this case, the possibility that these 8 people are human traffickers is even greater. This is not a trivial matter. We can't hide it. Report it." The director looked to be in his 50s, and his face was full of struggle. Such a big thing happened in the area under his jurisdiction. As long as he reported it, he would definitely bear some responsibility, but this matter was too big, and even if he wanted to conceal it, he couldn't. In the end, the director could only sigh helplessly, took out his phone, and began to report the matter to his superiors. While dealing with things here, Cheng Yan had already shrunk in the forest and quietly returned to the abandoned building. However, he didn't see Cheng Xi here, and Cheng Yan was not surprised. Cheng Xi valued Li Cheng so much, and he was probably looking for him outside. Even if he knew it was useless, he would not give up easily. Cheng Yan didn't go to find Cheng Xi either. Li Cheng was fine now. When the police found Li Cheng would be able to come back.